The story began with the roar of a monster that echoed from the depths of the forest. Laffy, a girl with red hair, quickly cut the beast in half. But something troubled Lappies. She had a friend named Rat who, seeing her wounded, applied rare elixir to her injury. Laffy scolded him for wasting such a valuable potion on a minor scratch, but Rate reacted differently. Confused by her reaction, he noticed that he could simply make more. The cause of Lappies' concern was Wraith, an alchemist. Elixirs that heal any injury were extremely rare, and only a few alchemists managed to create them after many years of effort, often without success. Even buying one was almost impossible, because a lifetime of work might not be enough gold. Once Laffy tried to buy an elixir with all her savings, only to find out that the only available ampule was reserved for a nobleman. In desperation to get the elixir for her sister, Laffy begged the seller, offering to do anything, but he refused, saying that business was more important to him. Upset, she turned to leave and bumped into a frail man who fell on her. Concerned, she asked if he was all right. And his stomach responded with a loud rumble. When Luffy brought food to the man who was Wrath, he gratefully admitted that he was an alchemist. To repay her, he offered to create anything she desired using alchemy, and she spontaneously asked for an elixir, but doubted he could do it because he was weakened from hunger. To her surprise, Wrath agreed and gave her a genuine elixir. Surprised, laughing, she asked where he got it, and Wrath casually admitted that he made it himself. Examining the elixir, she confirmed its authenticity by the color and magical aura, which matched the sheet she had seen in the shop. Laddie offered to pay any price for it because she was impressed by its value. Reiter reminded her that it was a thank you for the bread she had given him. She still wanted to help and asked if he needed assistance in selling potions. When they were leaving, he explained that it was his first time in the capital and that his wallet had been stolen, so he was left without money. Luffy led Rate to the Adventurers Guild. They went inside. In the guild, Laffy and the S-rank adventurer were being actively discussed. Rate, interested, asked if she was famous. She replied that with her status, fame was inevitable. Behind the registration desk, Amelia warmly greeted Lath. When Rate introduced himself, Amelia teased him by asking if he was Lath's boyfriend. She laughed embarrassedly and explained that she only helped Rat after finding him during your fainting. Her firm denial slightly offended him, then Rat explained their goal: to put the elixir on the counter to sell. Laffy was stunned. Alchemists worked their whole lives for one elixir, and Wraith created two as if it were nothing. Her curiosity about Rate deepened. Amelia checked if the elixir was genuine and asked if he was sure it was worth selling such a treasure. Ray casually showed 4 more elixirs and said he had plenty of them. It caused a loud reaction from Amelia, who attracted the guild's attention. Late, worried, pulled the ghost towards the exit and demanded an explanation. Rate, embarrassed, waved off the fuss and said they were just elixirs he had made. Lathe insisted that his alchemical skill was extraordinary. She warned that dangerous people might target him if they found out about his talent, and asked not to sell the elixirs, but Rafe protested, explaining that he had nothing else to sell. Finding no other way out, Lucky decided to stay at her house that night. He felt responsible for having stopped his sales. Rate was unconcerned. He was simply glad to have somewhere to stay, even if it was with a girl. At Lafayette House, the anger was surprised by the size of the inhabitants. Lathe arrived with a young girl, introducing her as his younger sister, Sylvia. They laughed at the offer to make tea, but then some unserious volunteer offered to help. Laffy insisted that she rest so as not to worsen her health. Sylvia quietly sat opposite Rate while Lafayette went to brew tea. The silence became awkward, and Rat did not know what to say. Sylvia thanked him, and when he asked why, she clarified that he gave her sister a valuable elixir. He replied that Lafayette helped him first, so he owes her. Sylvia still insisted on thanking him. She explained that Lathe worked tirelessly for her. Puzzled, Rat learned from Sylvia that Lathe is desperately searching for a cure for his illness. Ray understood why Laffy was so persistent. He told Sylvia that she has an incredible sister. And Sylvia smiled, agreeing that Lathe is the best sister in the world. This quietly amused Vreda, because Sylvia initially seems so grown-up. She admitted that she was only 15. Let Wraith Wishterus be your patron. And Sylvia smiled. Laffy, eavesdropping from behind the door, also smiled. The next day, Wraith decided to brew a potion. When Leith asked why, he explained that since she said not to sell elixirs, he decided to make potions instead. Sylvie asked how long it usually takes to prepare a potion. Letty estimated that it was about an hour per vial, depending on the potion. Rat, however, said that preparing a medium-quality potion took him only a few seconds. Lackey pulled Sylvia aside, warning her not to trust him, because only someone as unusual as Wraith could prepare a potion so quickly. While they were arguing, Sally laughed and called Rat a strange person. Wrath opened the bag, took out the ingredients, and allowed Lays to observe. They watched as he closed his eyes, concentrated, and read the passage. Cleanse, set the components, sublimate. In an instant, the potion was ready, just as he said. The sisters were amazed when they first saw perfect alchemy. For Ray, this is a routine matter. Does not realize the value of his skills. He aimed to make a medium-quality potion that would yield high quality. He held back a little, but realized that mass-producing such potions could solve his financial problems. Sylvia said she now understood the sisters' previous remarks. Later in the Guild of Enterprises, Wrath loudly welcomed Amelia. We apologize for yesterday and offer a new product for sale. He showed the quality potion and asked if she would buy it. Amelia grins, but he wanted to discuss the previous day first, and Lafay suggested postponing it. Amelia offered 3 gold coins for 15 quality elixirs. She noted that the pace significantly exceeded expectations, and due to the more frequent appearance of monsters, the potion supply was insufficient. Rhett felt relieved and was glad he could spend the night at the inn, asked Leith what she was busy with, and she said she hadn't taken guild tasks for a long time. The tasks are varied, gathering herbs, monster extermination, or non-combat tasks, such as finding lost cats or making potions. Hearing the details from Lafay, Rate smirked and doubted her choice. She decided to register as an adventurer because she liked it and noticed the offered rewards. Lapti weighed the risks and decided that if a request for elixirs or something unrealistic appeared that could expose Wraith, she would closely monitor him and intervene if necessary. Amelia informed Rat that he now has a rank, and even without completing extermination tasks, he can rise to rank D. Leith suggested. He takes orders unrelated to alchemy, but Rat's first choice was connected to alchemy. She asked for a favor related to a cat to persuade him, but he seems to have already made up his mind. Amelia warned that the request about alchemy was not a wise choice because the client was strange. And no one fulfilled it, so it was a bad choice. Ray did not listen to either her or Lathe and decided to take it. Amelia checked if he understood her warning, and he confirmed that he did, but found the challenge interesting. Reither's trip to the client's house. Remembering Lathe's concern, he wanted to fulfill the request smoothly to calm her. He knocked and said he came to fulfill the request. A young girl greeted him and ordered him to follow her to start immediately. Rat thought the girl was just helping, but she, Daisy, said that she was the one who placed this request, and was about his age. He apologized for mistaking her for younger, and she sharply told him to shut up and follow her. They entered a room where he explained to Daisy that he would gather and purify herbs for her. Daisy described extraction as distillation of herbs into a liquid with their properties, and purification as the removal of impurities from that liquid. He called to involve as many people as possible in the process. He walked with a cunning, threatening smile that made Wraith feel a surge of challenge. Wraith began. His efficiency and accuracy were at least 50 times better than the average alchemist. After some time, Wraith wondered if he had done enough, but he followed Daisy's instructions and eventually easily fulfilled his first request, hoping to earn Laptis's praise and prove he could manage on his own. Later, Daisy, noticing it was already late, checked if he was not being lazy. She opened the door and calmly offered a short break if he needed it. Daisy was shocked to see a room filled with processed herbs. Everything was made from the provided ingredients. She shouted and demanded explanations on how he managed to do so much so quickly. Rat calmly said he just used ordinary alchemy. Feeling inadequate, Daisy insisted that ordinary did not explain his speed and still shouted, demanding that he explain his method. Wright showed how easily he extracts and purifies substances from herbs. He did it as if it were ordinary alchemy, which made Daisy tremble, and from the overload she fainted. When she woke up, she was lying on Wrath. He shuddered because of their closeness. Realizing their situation, Daisy slapped Wrath, and blushing, reproached him that such closeness is only for a loved one. Wrath apologized, explaining that he could not leave her unconscious on the floor. Daisy accepted his arguments, then looked around the room to make sure this incredible work was not a dream. She praised the real talent of Wreath and did not understand why he had not become more famous. He explained that he had arrived in the capital quite recently. Earlier, he studied alchemy in a village. Daisy, intrigued by this, asked Wrath for a favor. She invited him to visit occasionally to help her, and also asked him to teach her alchemy. Rat was surprised by this request. He had never taught anyone before. The idea interested him, so he agreed. Daisy handed him the request form, which he signed. He promised to deliver it to the guild immediately, then left. So Rate completed his first guild assignment and unexpectedly agreed to teach Daisy alchemy. At the guild, Amelia congratulated Rat on completing the task. Surprised that he was the one who succeeded, she gave him 1 gold coin as a reward. Ret returned to Laffey and boasted that he handled the request himself, but Laffey, unimpressed, sharply asked him to repeat it, and Ret froze. 30 minutes before the event, Wraith arrived at the guild with the completed order. He admitted that the tasks were difficult because they asked for as much as possible, and he did not know when to stop. He worked consistently and eventually filled an entire room. The client was so impressed with the result that she fainted. After the incident, Rate also agreed to teach the client alchemy. Reflecting, he admitted that perhaps he had overdone it. Laffey said that it was not a trifle. He caused the client to faint and suspected that the client was using him. She noticed that the client had convinced him to regularly help her with ambitious alchemical projects and teach her the craft. It seemed like the perfect outcome for the client, and Rafe began to understand the meaning of her sly smile. Laffey advises that kindness is important, but he should be more careful and value himself more. Ray admitted that it was difficult for him to realize his own worth. In the next chapter, 2 travelers discuss a rumor about an alchemist. In one adventure, they mentioned an alchemist who came to the guild with many elixirs. Doubting whether it was true, another dismissed it as a fabrication. During the conversation, they heard a strange sound. A few days ago, after becoming an adventurer, Rate agreed to fulfill Daisy's request in her shop. He told her that it was difficult for him to determine his own worth. Daisy, surprised by his sudden remark, asked what caused this comment. Rhett explained that a friend advised him to better realize his own worth, and he was trying to understand how to do that. Daisy did not know he had friends, and this surprised Rat. He could not believe that she saw him as a lonely outcast. Daisy emphasized the importance of moderation in actions. Rit asked for clarification. She explained that selling a large number of elixirs at once would attract unwanted attention, so she suggested limiting sales, say, to 1 elixir per year. It is best to sell them discreetly so that no one notices. Elixirs, Daisy noted, are valuable because they save lives, but standing out is dangerous, and only a fool would try to sell a large batch of expensive elixirs at once. Interested, she asked if Rat makes elixirs and said she wants to learn how to make them. Rat agreed to teach her and ordered her to demonstrate the steps of extraction, purification, preparation of components, and sublimation. Daisy, full of confidence, told him to watch carefully. Ray was teaching her alchemy for the first time, and Daisy eagerly awaited this moment. She focused and quickly prepared a high-quality elixir. Rat looked impressed, and Daisy was delighted. She was impressed when he noticed that she lacked knowledge. Annoyed, Daisy asked him to repeat. Ray explained that although she had mastered the basics, he meant deeper knowledge from books. For example, he mentioned an ingredient called chakra, which grows only where there is a lot of mana in the air. It is an important component for elixirs and powerful potions, but it is rarely recorded in books about herbs or plants. She did not know his story, and now it was time to find out. Rafe placed several books on the table and asked her to start studying. She was surprised that he seriously forced her to study. When she asked if studying would improve her skills in alchemy, he responded by asking if she knew about that herb. She said that it was mostly used to stop bleeding. It worked best when crushed and applied directly to the wound. Wright confirmed that she was right. Alchemists use alchemy to enhance its clotting ability to create potions that heal wounds. He showed her the potion she made from Lamo and the one he made. Daisy looked them over and noticed that his potion was of high quality, while hers was of average quality. Rat asked if she could determine what they had done differently, but she could not. He gently explained that the difference lay in the conception of the process of purifying herbal ingredients. The way they applied this conception affected the quality of the potion. Training was necessary to master any skill. In the next scene, Sylvia warmly greeted Rat. She had learned from her sister that he had gone on adventures. He explained that he only took on tasks related to alchemy, so he did not consider himself a true adventurer. Sylvia jokingly said she hoped Lathe did not mention the fainting incident. Lathe appeared and asked how he was feeling. Wearing Lathe Warren's apron, which made her hard to recognize, she jokingly remarked to Rat, reminded him that she was still a girl, and he apologized. She decisively placed the pot on the table and asked everyone to eat before the food got cold. Rate said he did not come to eat, but Lecky insisted that as their guest he would join them. Sylvia apologized to Lathe for leaving her to do all the work, but Lathe waved it off and said she was not fully recovered yet. It was her first time cooking this dish, but she thought it turned out well. While they ate, Lathe asked Wrath how he was doing, and he said he had started teaching Daisy alchemy, and Lathe wondered if he would teach her the same way he was taught. Wrath replied that it would probably take days or decades to reach that level. Sylvia asked if he had taught himself alchemy, but his mood worsened when he remembered that he had a mentor. When she asked about them, he described them as completely hopeless. He told how the mentor, when he was a child, threw him into dangerous situations with monsters for training and never helped with household chores. They were wasteful, drunk, eccentric, and completely unreliable. He added that he did not want to see them anymore. After dinner, when Rat was about to leave, Sylvia equipped him with supplies. She sincerely thanked him, saying, "He saved her sister's life with his elixir." Rate smiled. He was glad he could help. Then he went to his tavern. Having fulfilled Daisy's request, he was going to visit the guild and noticed a crowd. He approached to see what was happening. He saw Amelia, who urgently asked him for help. At the city entrance, 2 travelers were wounded, one in critical condition. Wraith hesitated because Emilio knew about his elixir, and public use could be risky. He remembered Letty's warning that dangerous people might target him because of his abilities. Wraith decided to act in Amelia to lead him to the wounded. He could not ignore the people he could save. She quickly led him to the city entrance, where he saw a severely wounded woman. After examination, he found she had blood loss, gangrene, and poisoning. He gave the green potion to the man supporting her to stop the bleeding, and the elixir for the wound. But he did not have a potion for the poison. While others wondered who he was, he quickly prepared the antidote and gave it to her. After he drank all 3 potions, the one who was healed, the whole city was amazed and rejoiced that life was saved, because many people saw how Rate healed the girl from her wounds. Rado was flooded with direct requests regarding his services. He had to anticipate complications and admitted that it was even more trouble than when he was without money. Rate reviewed the requests, and most were from people asking him to create or sell elixirs. Many of them were collectors or wealthy people who were not even sick or injured. The woman he healed came to thank him for the potion and promised to repay him, even if it took her whole life. Rado explained that he used the elixir without her permission, so he did not expect payment. She insisted on doing something for him, so he asked her to help if he ever needed it. She agreed and left the room. He was so busy then that he forgot, but she reminded him that he used his abilities to save someone. Since then, Rafe decided to sell elixirs only to those who truly needed them, and to be cautious, he looked for other ways to help people without elixirs. He began working in a hospital to treat patients, but soon realized that the job was exhausting. He almost managed to handle the queue of requests, but he was almost out of ingredients. This could mean that he would have to return home for the first time in a while to replenish supplies. Otherwise, he would not be able to take more requests. Rafe came to the Adventurers Guild to report that he had completed the task, and Amelia informed him about a direct request from a high-ranking nobleman. Wrath considered the request. Amelia noted that it came from the Radium family, whose request he had previously declined. Wrath was about to refuse again, but Amelia said they were waiting outside to escort him. The Radium family will be here. One of the 4 great noble families of the kingdom, descended from an ancient honorable lineage connected to its founders, and besides supporting the royal family, managed extensive affairs, including overseeing lands and foreign relations, and also had ties with the Adventurers Guild. Amelia wished him luck, and Wrath smiled kindly at her, although he really just wanted to go home and sleep, not go to their estate. Wraith carefully examined the estate from outside. The maid greeted him and led him inside. She knocked on the door and announced her rates to the competitor. Rate doubted whether the master would listen to his words. Hearing the master's voice, Rate's heart beat faster, and he became even more anxious when they entered the room. A handsome young man introduced himself as Requiem Villa. Rafe also introduced himself, and they started a casual conversation. Rat would rather go home than stand and chat, and Vil straightened up, realizing that formalities were unnecessary, and asked if Rat was going to sell him the elixir. Rate smiled and refused. When Vil offered 300 gold coins, Ruth refused again. Even when Vil offered support to his family, the stakes still refused. Vil acknowledged the firm's stance on the stakes and moved on to another question. When Will asked if he had mastered alchemy himself, Rate admitted that he had a mentor and named who it was. Rafe warned that knowledge would bring no good. He said that his teacher was an alchemist named Luria. Will's expression changed, and he asked if Ruth meant the fallen hero. Rate was shocked that rumors had reached the capital, and Will smiled, noting that if Rate was Luria's apprentice, that explained a lot. He thanked Rat for his time and offered to order a carriage to take him back. Rat declined, as he had another place to go. Will smiled warmly, extended his hand, and said he hoped for a good relationship going forward. They shook hands, and Rat left the mansion in the city. Due to a stream of recent requests, Rat had not a minute for himself, and because of constant demand, he had only one elixir left, so that day he decided to go shopping. When he was outside, he met Sylvia and Leify. Thanks to Rat, Sylvia could now go outside. He noticed something in her hand and asked about it. She explained that it was a staff that enhanced her magic, and added that she was also an adventurer. Interested, he asked about her rank in adventures. He was surprised when he learned that Sylvia was an S-rank adventurer, and asked if they were going on a mission, and laughing said they had just returned after defeating a water dragon. In this world, monsters were rated by strength. If SS was the highest and F the lowest, even the weakest dragon had at least an S rank. One dragon could destroy an entire nation, and Ray realized that although Sylvia called him abnormal, she also did extraordinary things. Their conversation ended, and the girls went to Daisy. As they walked, he was only interested in the origin of the race and whether he had always been alone. He reminded her that he had a mentor, so he was not lonely. She asked why, because she was curious, and said that Rhett was impressive but told almost nothing about himself. Lafayette added that they also told Rhett little about themselves. They wondered if he would be surprised to learn that they were not actually sisters. Late thought he would be even more surprised to learn how much she had previously differed from who she is now. Sylvia was kidnapped by goblins, and one of them laughed while watching over her. She only remembered her name, nothing else. Having no family, Lafayette took her as a sister, and they started living together. She thought she depended heavily on Lathe, but it turned out otherwise. Lathe asked her to magically transfer their things to the carriage. Usually, this was easy for her. But she suddenly froze and fell. Lathe was puzzled and worried about what was happening. Sylvia thought the elixir was supposed to heal her, but she couldn't move. Leith held Sylvia, who was still worried about the luggage. Lackey was not concerned about the luggage and wanted help with the tariffs. Meanwhile, Rat was approaching Daisy's shop. He chose a different route, but arrived safely and gradually got acquainted with the capital. He came to Daisy's shop as a customer for the first time and could not imagine what it would be like. Daisy would be very glad to see him. He imagined her expression even before entering, as if the door would not open. Daisy greeted her client with a bright smile. But when she saw him, she stopped pretending. She said he rarely came so that she wouldn't ask for anything, and he explained that he had few ingredients and needed to buy more. Daisy noticed that he was busy saving people with his elixirs and other work. She asked why he constantly consulted with her and insisted that he realize his worth. It was more difficult than it seemed. Wright gathered the necessary ingredients, and Daisy told him it cost 2 silver coins and smiled as if he were a regular customer. Rat was fascinated by her professional smile for clients. Daisy asked what he was going to prepare with those ingredients. He said he was considering an appointment. She warned that such things could upset herbalists, and if an alchemist like him made better medicines, they would lose their jobs. Rat did not object to this. He had heard that his mentor was also disliked by herbalists. Daisy saw that he was not worried, so she said that the adventure he saved was attacked in an unusual place. Anger did not know about this, although he was the one who saved them. The attack happened in an area where monsters had never been reported, near an empty house. The wound he treated was affected by both poison and rot. Many monsters could poison, but only a few could cause rot. It could have been a creature that returned from the dead or some special weapon. These options were the most likely. The exact reasons for the appearance of monsters were unknown, but it was believed that they appeared where there was a lot of mana. Sometimes strange things happen. Rate bought ingredients and left the shop. When he opened the door, a hand grabbed him and began to pull him. Lathe apologized, pulling him along, promising to explain later. She took him to her home, where Rat examined Sylvia, who had fallen ill again. Late felt great guilt as an S-rank adventurer for not being able to save the person and was already about to ask Rate for help. Rate interrupted her and assured that Sylvia would be fine. He smiled and promised to save her. Luffy held his breath, bowed, and thanked him. Rat explained that Sylvia could not move due to the so-called magical crystal disease. The magical crystal disease caused crystallization of magical energy in the body and paralyzed the patient. The elixir given to Sylvia only slowed the disease. It did not cure her. This was his first encounter with this disease, but he knew how to prepare a potion that cures it. The problem was that he lacked the necessary ingredients. Luffy suggested gathering them, but Rat said she did not know those herbs. He suggested she go with him to his home, where monsters roamed, but the necessary ingredients grew. Lathe willingly agreed to help. Crystallization was only in Sylvia's hands and feet, and it would take about 7 days to reach the heart. Rhett informed Lathe that Sylvia had about 7 days left before the disease became fatal, so they had time. They planned to set out the next morning. For now, Rat had to prepare and went home. Lathe stopped him to thank him. Rate smiled and left. He worked in his home laboratory. Wrath mixed the antidote with ointment and combined the potion that repels monsters with the healing one. Finally, he took off the ring and placed it on the table. The next morning, Lathe arrived by carriage. They got on it and set out to gather more needed herbs. Rafe asked if someone was taking care of Sylvia. Lathe replied that Amelia was looking after her. Rate thought that Amelia was probably helping for Laffy's sake. Laffy had probably modestly asked her to do it. He couldn't imagine a better person to care for Sylvia now. After examining Sylvia, Rate had a question. He noticed that the magical crystal's disease originated in the northeast, and in the capital Sylvie, such a thing would not be encountered. Rate asked if Sylvie had ever been to the northeast. Laffy said no, she hadn't been there since they met. Lafayette admitted that they were not biological sisters. She saved Sylvia when she lost her memory and was left without a family, so she took her in. Rate listened carefully. Rate spoke these words very casually, but making such a choice when Rate was still young was not easy. Due to Sylvia's memory loss, she could initially have been from the northeast. Lafayette promised to remember this and asked where Rate's house was. Rafe lived in a small wooden house further down the road they were traveling. Living in the forest was unusual, but it was in that house that the mentor raised him until one day she mysteriously disappeared. Rat still did not know where his mentors were. Suddenly, they came across an injured man in the forest. Wright helped him, and the man asked if they were going into the forest. When they confirmed, he advised against doing so. The man said that he was attacked by a monster, a bloody wolf, and barely escaped. Rate asked about the monster. After thanking the man, they named the main reasons to continue. Soon they reached the forest where Rate lived. They began to walk. Because of the monsters, it became dangerous to continue by carriage. To avoid attracting attention, they proceeded cautiously. Rafe warned Leif about possible monsters. As an S-rank adventurer, Leith was on guard and ready to fight at any moment, her eyes carefully scanning everything around. They were already halfway to his hut and had not encountered a single monster, but Rat expected one to appear soon. A chill gripped his head, and laughing warned him just before death. Before the explosion, Wrath barely dodged the attack of a blood wolf of C rank. They were not alone, they were surrounded despite the danger. Rate remained calm, saying he was used to such situations, although inside he was scared and wanted to flee. Lathe heard his desire to escape, began attacking the wolves. They planned for Rate to run away and hide while she held them back. She explained that even she couldn't fight such a number while simultaneously protecting him, and Rate, who was worried about her, was removed. She felt her strength as she cut through the walls. He ran away feeling useless and looked for shelter while Lathy fought the blood wolves. Ray, hiding, felt miserable, and suddenly even more blood wolves appeared. And you were running away from them. There were many of them and they were fast. So he used a potion that repels animal-type monsters. He was sure it would work, he threw it. But the walls only sniffed and froze, and started chasing him again. Running at full speed, he wondered why the potion didn't work and decided that their sense of smell was dulled. He splashed them in the eyes with a potion, a homemade dye that was supposed to temporarily blind them. Then he threw something that muffled their hearing and sight to confuse them. He was exhausted, but he urgently needed to find Laffy. Falling from the tree, he got scared. Meanwhile, Laffy, having defeated the wolves, began to look for him. Hearing a suspicious sound, laughing, he rushed to him, sensing danger. Rate, cursing his fate, fled from the burning skeleton. He reasoned that skeletons have no sensations, so potions and dyes do not affect them. A skeleton over 2 meters tall with a sword that could fell a tree was formidable, but vulnerable to holy water. Having only 3 vials, Rate knew they would barely slow him down, so he devised another plan. He threw something at the skeleton that seemed to work. Then there were more potions made from his compress and excitability. It was a rubber that became sticky when mixed with water. Lafay is looking for Rate. Pay attention to the smoke that was seen earlier. Rat temporarily immobilized the skeleton but could not handle it, and it lunged again. So he needed to escape and find Lafay. Rate stepped away from the skeleton, no longer heard it, and decided to send a smoke signal. He squeezed the core of the fruit, usually used for dyeing, and the pot with the alchemical mixture, causing them to explode into a gaseous form. An unsuccessful alchemical process, usually not done intentionally, although he knew the theory, this was his first attempt. He planned to hide and wait for Lafay, even thought about climbing a tree. But the skeleton's massive sword struck, breaking the ring of his resistance, his last defense. It was hard for Rate to lose the ring and survive that sudden attack. He thought he could buy more time if he managed it better, because he had no tricks left and his strength was quickly fading. It seemed like this was the end for him. The skeleton approached, but just in time. Lathe arrived and used her ability to crush the creature. Lafay's check on Frit went well, and he blushed a little, while she laughed because he was not afraid. He asked if she had lost her sword, and she explained that she had previously thrown it into the skeleton's hand. But when they looked, the skeleton began to regenerate, and this became a problem for Lafay. She told Rat to stay behind and face the skeleton alone. He thought she had won. She could not completely destroy it. The skeleton used magic, so she decided to break his magic by force. Using the skill Fracture, she attacked, and Rafe found himself in her arms like a princess. He was sure that after being carried away by such a girl, he would never get married. Lafayette said that they had to run because they could not defeat the skeleton, and she asked if he knew the way to his house. Ray realized that he needed to focus on finding the ingredients he needed, and led her while the skeleton pursued them. Suddenly the skeleton stopped and growled. Rat wondered what it was doing. Then I saw the bloody walls being assembled. He told Laffy that the skeleton was summoning more blood wolves. She planned to fend them off by running and holding him. A blood wolf attacked us, but she cut it while still holding him in her arms. Wraith was surprised again, then Laughter felt something when he asked. She said that the blood walls were not alive. She suspected that the skeleton controlled the dead bodies and pointed to their shadows. The Wraiths saw that they were being manipulated by magic. It was necromancy. Magic that controlled corpses and explained why they did not smell was the first time Wraith saw a skeleton using such magic. Among monsters, only a few possessed magic, for example dragons with their breath. Usually, only powerful mages could control corpses. If they give the skeleton a high rating, it will be high on the list. Rafe asked what they would do. And Latte said they would have to fight it. She told him to grab what was needed while she held back the enemies. They were close to his house. After they ran, they got there. Lucky sat him down, and he went inside while she fought the wolves. The house was covered in dust from long neglect, but he was glad it was not destroyed. The materials about tariffs were in the basement. Everything was intact. He wanted to take more, but took only what was necessary. Those materials, for which he risked everything, would later come in handy. He noticed a sword that reminded him how the mentor sent him to gather ingredients. He remembered how he was beat, complained that he almost died, and yelled at his mentor for nearly killing him. She greeted him warmly, despite his dusty appearance, and told him to store the ingredients properly. He couldn't believe she said that when he returned beaten and bruised, and he also hadn't heard that there were undead there. Since she didn't mention it, she pretended to be sweet and said she also knew nothing about the undead. She said that the risen corpses are easy to tame, only holy water is needed. But Wrath reminded her that he didn't know how to use magic like she did, and if he tried, he would be torn apart before he could even splash the water. She teased that he looked more like a fillet than ground meat, but it wouldn't matter if he were dead. Then she gave him a sword. The sword, which she had made long ago but never used, was very effective against undead creatures. Wrath lacked swordsmanship skills, so upon returning to the present, he took the sword hoping his unreliable mentor would guide him. He thought about giving the sword to Lathe, but as soon as he left, his house collapsed. Lathe rushed to him in panic to check if he was okay. Wrath shouted at her, angry because he had lost all the ingredients he had so hard collected. He handed her the sword and said that it could defeat the enemy, but uncertainly admitted that he had not forged it. The sword was light, and when Lecky struck the skeleton with it, the skeleton could not recover. The sword proved effective and forced the skeleton to flee after her strike. Lafay decisively jumped on it before it disappeared and finished it off. Rate was impressed, but Leet modestly noted that her S-rank was not for nothing, although she credited the victory to the sword made from the bones of the skeleton itself. After the battle, a large magical stone appeared. These gems crystallized magical energy, were important materials for magical devices, and were often found in powerful monsters as a source of energy. Wrath had never seen such a stone before, but had always dreamed of using it in alchemy. Such gems were rare and hard to trade, so this was his first chance to obtain one, and acquiring both the stone and the necessary ingredients was a great success. But Wrath was devastated by the loss of valuable materials buried in his destroyed house. The losses were painful but irreparable. After they defeated the skeleton and obtained the necessary ingredients, they had to quickly return home. 2 days after the fall of Sylvia, Lafay and Rate arrived at the capital. Only 5 days remained for Sylvia's treatment. Lathe hurried to check on her sisters Amelia and Sylvia, who were both asleep. Rafe began preparing the potion, while Lecky took care of her sister. Celia's illness was caused by the crystallization of magical energy in her body, so Rate planned to create a potion from monster ingredients to absorb this energy. The monster Vito was an SS-rank creature from the north, known for feeding on the magical energy of others. Contact with it could drain energy. There were cases when overseers lost control, became exhausted, and died, so magical insulating gloves were required when working with Vito to avoid losing consciousness. Rate's mentor defeated these creatures for her experiments and used their remains. He rehydrated Vito, added water, and heated it, purifying and converting it into sublimation. Unlike ordinary potions, healing ones omitted some components. The most important stage was the sublimation process. The goal was not to enhance, but to suppress Vito's ability to absorb energy, a task that only skilled alchemists could deliberately accomplish. Wraith focused and relied on his abilities, while Lafayette watched as the room lit up. Lafayette observed Rat's work, impressed by his skill and fully understood. He entrusted him with Sylvia's treatment. After 10 minutes, the potion was ready, and Sylvia only had to drink it. Since she was asleep, Wraith decided not to wake her abruptly and to rest a bit at the table until morning. He woke up in the morning and took the potion to Lafayette. Seeing her, he asked where Amelia was, and Lath explained that Amelia had just gone home after watching over Sylvia. He told Laffy that he had finished making the potion. It touched her so much that she teared up a little. Together, they knocked on Sylvia's door and entered her room. Sylvia's body was covered with spots. Latvian Wraith ran up to her and wrote. Wraith, examining her, noticed that the disease was progressing faster than expected and handed Sylvia the potion with orders to drink it. She did it, but the wounds did not disappear. Laffy, worried, asked what happened, but Ray Tree assured her that the potion was working. Slowly, and there was no need to worry if the results did not appear immediately. Rate strictly warned Sylvia not to use magic until he gave permission. With his scanning ability, he saw that the flow of her magic was stabilizing, confirming the potion's effect. He smiled broadly and assured them that her life was no longer in danger. He advised them to rest and not to strain themselves today. Hearing Rate's words, Leif was relieved, but Leif was still worried about Sylvia, and from the sudden drop in tension, Leif's legs gave way. They began to celebrate together as soon as Rat left the room. He was satisfied for the whole day because he used the place at Lafia's. He realized he needed a place to lay out ingredients and potions. The Nweraith state was too restrictive. Little space could prevent him from effectively treating some patients. He wanted a large workspace so as not to disturb anyone. Visiting Daisy's shop, he seemed distracted. So she asked what he was thinking about. He noticed how calm it was in her shop. Just a few days ago, he risked his life gathering materials in the forest. He was chased by a giant skeleton and bloody wolves. Daisy wondered if that skeleton was the same monster that attacked the adventure saved by the ghost. He was surprised because Guildrovers recalled that 2 people noticed a giant skeleton in the forest, where supposedly there were no monsters, and it seemed strange. Daisy asked what happened to the skeleton, and Rates replied that they defeated it, attributing most of the effort to him, the adventurer. When Daisy asked who it was, she noticed that the skeleton had at least a plus rank. Rhett reported that he was from Lafay. Daisy recognized Lafay as the youngest adventurer of rank S. Daisy found it strange that Rhett knew such a famous person, since he had been in the capital for less than 6 months. The next day, Savet felt much better. Her magical circulation was normal, and she fully recovered. Sylvia, very happy, hugged Rate and sincerely thanked him. Rate sighed with relief and said everything worked out. Wrath recalled the guild discussion about the skeleton they fought. Sylvia said that morning, she received a request to destroy a monster in the same forest near the capital they were visiting. Rate was surprised that the request directly named her. She added that the client was the head of the Radium family, one of the 4 great noble houses. Ruth knew that man. Sylvia noted that she had already defeated a skeleton, but laughed a lot. It might still be just a blood wall, and I plan to inform the guild about the incident with the skeleton. Ruth decided to join her because she needed a magic stone to prove the defeat, and Sylvia also wanted to go. The 3 headed to the guild together. Rate noticed many different shops in the city, so he was promised to be shown the weapon store next time. They stopped near a jewelry store where Sylvia was looking at a necklace for Leify. Wrath examined the jewelry and was choosing a replacement for his broken ring. Sylvia, wanting to give something for her treatment, asked if he wanted anything. Sylvia's bright smile made refusal difficult, so Ruth showed her the ring. Although he was considering another option, she insisted on buying the ring. Sylvia explained that the necklace as a gift symbolizes a wish for safety, and the ring has a different, more personal meaning, which made her blush. After buying gifts, the group reached the guild where Amelia had gone. It was very pleasant to see Sylvia in good health. So Amelia was thanked for her care. Rat felt warmth from their close bond. Amelia asked if Lappy was there because of the request about the monster, which Laffey confirmed, saying they defeated it, and everyone was gathering ingredients in the forest to heal Sylvia. Amelia was impressed by their footprints. Rat showed her a magic stone from the skeleton. This indicated that only an adventurer of rank S could defeat such a powerful monster. Although Amelia knew about Leet's strength, she warned her not to overexert herself. She confirmed the authenticity of the stone. It was just a plan to inform the Radium family, and the reward would become available in 3 days. Lappy insisted on giving the entire reward to Rat, despite his protests. Explained that her actions were for Sylvia's sake, not for profit, so she considered it appropriate to allow Rat to receive the reward for defeating the skeleton. Ray trelented, although 200 gold coins stunned him. Everyone still assumed that he opened a store. Managing the store without fear. Rat discussed it with Daisy and decided instead to create a workshop. For the Alchemist, the workshop was a favorite place where one could experiment peacefully. Rat, like other alchemists, valued such a place. In the forest, his experiments were limited to an underground workshop, and in the capital, life and finances distracted him. Now, with additional funds, he could build one. He went into Daisy's shop to share plans for the workshop. Daisy was interested in his sudden decision. Rat explained that his new wealth allowed him to realize this dream, so he asked her for help because she had many acquaintances. He admitted that he did not understand craftsmen, so he turned to the resourceful Daisy for advice. Daisy was pleased. She noticed that Rate's mistress had built her own workshop, which rarely happens. Daisy offered to introduce him to competent people and said she wanted to join the project. Rat did not expect her participation because he had another person in mind to help create the workshop. Daisy frowned and insisted that she was helping him for his own good, and Rat, hesitating because of her reserve, did not argue further. Despite fears of leaving the shop unattended, Daisy urged him to move on, explaining that she had closed the store anyway that day. As they walked, Daisy asked whom Ret meant, and he named Sylvia Laffey's sister. Daisy, who did not know her, doubted whether it was unwise on Ret's part to ask for help from an S-rank adventurer. Ret explained that it was not his idea. When he asked about the workshop builder, Daisy called that person a complete weirdo. Anger does not react to eccentricity because it knows Daisy. Arrived with her at an ordinary house. They knocked and a joyful woman opened the door. She happily hugged Daisy, although Daisy demanded to be released. Ret was surprised by her strange behavior. Daisy sternly told her to stop. The woman, crying and confessing her deep attachment to Daisy, received a cold refusal. She then noticed Ret, who introduced himself. She was Nicola and seemed to know about him. Ret explained that he wanted to build a workshop and that Daisy had recommended this woman for the job. Nicola was glad that Daisy supported Rate's request to create a workshop and asked if this would be his first, pulling out several sheets of paper. Rat explained that he had done this before and knew what was needed, but this time he wanted to set it up in the 2-story house where he lived. He said he already had a prototype for the workshop and wanted to design based on it, with a budget of 200 gold coins and that he could increase it a bit if necessary. Nicola noticed that this budget offered many possibilities and asked what Rate planned to use the workshop for. Rate said it was mainly for making potions and magical devices. Then he showed her a magic stone and asked if it could be useful for the workshop. Nicola was noticeably impressed and asked Rate to show her the place he had in mind for the workshop, suggesting they discuss expenses after her visit. They waited while she gathered a few things, and during the wait, Rat asked Daisy how she knew Nicola, and Daisy said they met when she was an adventurer and had kept in touch since then. Rhett was surprised to learn that Daisy had once been an adventurer. After Nicola returned, they went to the workshop site called Rate's Plan Living, which was spacious. Inside, Nicola began inspecting the place and decided to prepare an estimate, as well as work on the magic stone. She asked if Rate wanted to use it for storing magical energy. Rate was surprised because magical gems usually served as parts of magical devices, not for accumulating energy as Nicola suggested. She explained that since there were already many magical devices in Rat's workshop, constantly powering them was difficult, and a crystal for storing magical energy would allow immediate use of the tools. Magical devices require a lot of energy, and having a reserve supply would simplify working with those that constantly consume it. Rath agreed with this idea. Nicola then said that they would start setting up the workshop in about a week. She suddenly changed her tone and asked Rat about his relationship with Daisy. Wraith felt a chill and wanted to escape the sudden tension. But Nicola grabbed him by the neck before he could speak, and Daisy explained that there was a close bond between them, not mentioning that it was a teacher-student relationship, and added that Rat taught her various things. Trembling, Rat noticed that her explanation sounded strange. Nicola, pale, confronted Wraith and warned him about the consequences if he ever harmed Daisy. Wraith swore he would never do such a thing, and Nicola immediately felt relieved and smiled as if nothing had happened. She hugged and kissed Daisy, said she was going home, and Daisy tried to push away her affection. After Nicola, Livy, Wraith did not know where to look. He asked Daisy if she really wanted to return next week, but Daisy remained determined. She said she could not change Nicola's overly kind nature and thanked Ruth for the day. Reth and Leith were walking together, and she asked what he was buying. He said he would buy everything attractive, like things for the interior of his workshops. Laughing, he inquired about the progress of work in the workshops. And Reth replied that everything would work out. Then he took out a flower hairpin and placed it on Lafayette, who blushed and insisted that such femininity did not suit her. The shop owner noticed Wrath and Lathe, and offering them a discount, asked if they were shopping today. Quickly explained that they had not met. Rafe began buying what he wanted, and Leith waited until he finished, although they could buy ingredients for dinner, and Rafe asked if there was anything Salsha and Leith liked. Leith said she had no specific preferences, but Sylvia liked sweets. When Reith noted that girls her age, like Sylvia, often liked sweets, Lecking noticed how old he sounded. Reith recalled that Daisy had said something similar, and it saddened him for a moment. They also decided to prepare dessert and went to Reith's kitchen. In the kitchen, they began to cook dragon meat. Rate tried to help, but he found it difficult to cut the tough meat. Laffy suggested cutting the vegetables herself, and she would handle the meat, because dragon meat is very hard to cut. Despite the difficulties, they prepared a delicious dish. The soldier was captivated by the sight of the food, as he already liked dairy dishes, and eagerly wanted to taste Rate's dessert. They dined, chatting casually then. Laffy and Rat washed the dishes in the kitchen. Laffy asked about Rat's workshop every day. She described it as a place with magical devices and a storage of ingredients. She imagined that there could be strange things in it because it was his workshop. After cleaning, thank them for the food and return home, and invite them to your place in a week. Vratmit met with Nicoli and Daisy and said he had brought another assistant, Sylvia, who introduced herself as Shaylee. She almost stunned Nicola with her charm. Nicola wanted to hug her, but restrained himself because it was their first meeting. Daisy was a little jealous, comparing herself to Sylvia. Sylvia said that Rat asked her to help, but she was not sure about her role. Nicola laughed and said that Sylvia did not need to stress because she and Daisy would back her up. Daisy approached Sylvia and expressed hope that they would work well together. Sylvia was captivated by Daisy's charm. Sylvia quietly asked Red about Daisy and noted that she was sweet. Ray revealed Daisy's name and said that she was older than Sylvia, which made Sylvia panic and start speaking in an official language. When everyone gathered, Rat asked Nicolette if everything was ready, and she confirmed that she was holding everything necessary in her magical bag. The bag used spatial magic to hold more than its size suggested. It was a rare and valuable item, requiring high-level magic to create and rarely sold. Nicola said that a mage friend helped her manage the collaboration. Rate, surprised by the idea of doing something together with someone, had no idea. He had never done it before. He thought about a mage who could help, believing that together they could create something impressive. It's time to start work, but Sylvia was distracted next to Nicola. In the workshop, Nicola took furniture out of the magic bag and arranged it with spatial magic. Rate was impressed by her. Her skill, Sylvia asked if he was really impressed, noting that such magic is common for mages. She added that spatial sorcery is complex, at least no less complex than her own. Inspired, Rate suggested to Sylvia to make a magic bag together with him. Sylvia smiled and agreed, excited by the idea. Rate was thrilled at the prospect of having his own magic bag. They started brewing potions, and Nicholas set up a magical device for storing ingredients. Similar ingredients require certain temperature and humidity for storage. This is a critically important step in preparation for any workshop. The group divided the tasks and began working together. After he finished the first task, Rate started the second, but noticed that Daisy and Sylvia were talking. Sylvia was discussing something when Daisy reminded her to focus and asked everyone to direct magical energy into the skeleton's magic stone. Nicola was preparing the magical device on his own, while Sylvia was near the mage charging the magical gem. Feeling idle and somewhat unnecessary, Nicola began planning the workshop setup for the next day. When they were preparing to create magical devices, Nicola asked for ideas. He spoke up because he wanted to share an idea. He showed the magical circle he had designed, and this interested Nicola. Although Daisy and Sylvia were confused again. Sylvia said she had never seen such a circle before. Rate explained that this circle was not for spells, but had a different purpose. Daisy impatiently asked what it was for. He explained that the circle was created for making magical devices using an alchemical pen. When he filled the circle with the necessary magical effect, he could transform accessories into magical instruments. He planned to power the circle with the energy of a magical stone, which could also speed up the creation of such circles. Usually, magical circles are single-use and lose their effect after creating a magical device, so a new circle must be drawn for each device. However, they assumed that constant power from the magical gem could change the situation and make the circle reusable, since with a continuous flow of magical energy, the circle could become permanent and reusable, but this would require a large amount of energy. Fortunately, they had a magical skeleton crystal filled with the power of an S-class mage. Nicola considered Rhett's idea promising, but time was needed to study the unfamiliar circle. Daisy and Sylvia remained puzzled, while Rhett and Nicola finished their conversation. Rhett apologized for leaving them aside and asked Sylvia if she wanted to create that magical bag they had talked about earlier. He wanted her to enchant the bag with special magic according to Nicholas's instructions, but he was worried about the risk of failure. Rafe gathered the necessary materials: Vito liquid, bag, and brush. The liquid, already infused with part of his magical energy, was used to draw a unique magical circle on the surface of the bag. Since it was his first attempt, the work was difficult. And Daisy and Sylvia waited patiently. Then Sylvia began casting a spatial expansion spell on the circle. She asked everyone to step back and began the ritual. When they finished, they were not sure if it worked. So Rate checked the bag. Inside, it was impressively spacious. It seemed like everything was going to succeed, but Rate felt something strange. Suddenly, liquid spilled from the bag. A growing spherical vortex is forming. Daisy grabbed Rates by the leg as the sphere began pulling them inside. Sylvia used magic to stop the absorption and prevent injuries. However, the expanding sphere caused significant damage to the walls of the house and nearby objects. After resting and catching their breath, they agreed that it was best to contact Niccolo. Sylvia's magic worked properly, but the problem was with the magic circle that Nicola drew. Since it was his first attempt, he probably made a mistake in the marking that was supposed to limit the expansion of the space inside the bag. Instead, the faulty circle malfunctioned, and the expansion suddenly exploded outward. It decided to first assess the damage. This room, the heart of the workshop, was the most spacious and closest to the entrance. Here was the magic stone and most of the magical devices. Other rooms probably also suffered, and Wrath felt very bad about causing the mess. Nicola came and explained that their initial plan was no longer possible. Accepting this, he promised to use them all. He spent all his savings to create the best possible workshop. In a few days, the damage was repaired. The facade of the workshop looked impressive. He went inside to find out if Nicola had fulfilled his request. Upon entering, he noticed constant magical circles drawing energy from the magic stone and increasing the efficiency of making magical devices. They were made of mithril, a strong and highly conductive material. They were not yet finished. Nicole explained that the circles lacked final markings and that she had prepared 5 small ones to avoid cluttering the space. Mithril had unparalleled magical conductivity, so it was perfect, but its rarity and difficulty of processing complicated the work. As Daisy mentioned, Nicola's craftsmanship was impressive. She explained that charging directly into mithril was difficult, so she gave a special mithril tool for this work. When he finishes, she will connect the circuits to the magic stone. Reith was worried and decided not to repeat the previous mistake, so although he had experience with magical circles, he drew each one very carefully. When Nicola needed to connect them, she started walking with a stone that troubled Wrath. Interested, Wrath asked what she was doing. She explained that she was using magic to form a chain. He asked to watch her work, and she agreed. He then asked if she, like Daisy, was an adventurer. She joked that Daisy supposedly mentioned a love story, but he explained that was not the case. Nicola said that she once pursued Daisy, who refused to join any group of adventurers. Nicola immediately fell in love with her. When Wrath asked why she gave up adventures, she explained. Handicrafts became her main occupation, mostly because of a person who greatly inspired her. This person helps her master the craft. Outwardly beautiful, and inside smart and determined, a person whom Nicola aspired to emulate. Wrath asked her name, and she said that her name was Luria, a famous heroine of the kingdom and Wrath's mentor. Wrath, as Luria's student, persuaded Nicola not to idolize Luria, and this surprised Nicola. She heard that Luria has a nice student, asked if he knows where Luria is, but he did not know. Despite his words, Nicola promised to find a way to meet Luria again. Understanding Nicola's determination, Rat did not insist. Their work is completed. Nicola made sure the magical devices worked properly, and Rate successfully tested them. She asked him to reach out if he was dissatisfied or needed additional help. Daisy and Sylvia appeared, interested in the commotion. Rate gladly informed them that the magical circles are working. This meant that his workshop was finally ready. Later, Luffy heard the news and asked how the master class went. Rate said it was wonderful. But Amelia interrupted him because she was already waiting for a meeting. She handed over something he took for a letter, but explained it was not a letter. It was a direct order from the royal family. Luria appears in the next chapter, fighting a giant monster, calmly sipping. She hurried because she heard that Rat was in the capital. When Rat was 7 years old, he was with Luria and asked how she became so impressive. She asked him about the most important aspect of alchemy. He answered that it was knowledge. Luria explained that something was much more important than knowledge. Practical experience. She put him in front of a monster and ordered him to grab the fruit near its nest. As if it was simple for a 7-year-old child, but he screamed in horror. It was Rate's dream, and he woke up falling off the chair. His combined living and working space became the place where he spent most of his time, and he often fell asleep during night work. Compared to how he lived under his mentor, his life was now much simpler. However, he was a little worried because of a letter from the royal family. The letter ordered him to appear at the royal castle in 3 days. Rate was not going to refuse the royal family, but he was concerned that the letter did not specify what exactly was required of him. The dream about the mentor also made him nervous, because it was the first time he had remembered her since he arrived in the capital. He was a little worried that the mentor might come, but dismissed it as unnecessary anxiety and decided to stick to his morning routine, then go shopping. One of his habits was to tend to the workshop in the morning, for example using alchemy to speed up the growth of plants. His mood lifted when he remembered how small the plants had been before. After tidying up the tools, he went shopping. Ray found a letter from Lums in his mailbox, which he checked again to see if he was dreaming, and realized that the sound really was coming from the weaving looms. He hurriedly approached Lafayette and Sylvia and announced an urgent meeting due to a serious situation. Lathe asked if it was about a request from the royal family, but Wrath said it was much worse. The girls were delighted, but when Ray said that his mentor would come, they just laughed. Lafay does not know if they should throw a party. Rate Pinnock said he had to run away immediately. He was scared because she knew his address, and he feared that his peaceful life was in danger. Lafay told him to relax. He noticed that his mentor was frankly strange, but doubted whether it was worth going so far to avoid her. Rate insisted that the reunion would be touching only if there were good relations between the mentor and the student, but his mentor was terrible and lacked common sense. Lafay said that his mentor wanted to see him, so he could just meet with her. Rate replied that when he lived with her, he had to prepare every meal, clean everything, wash all the clothes, and constantly risk his life, so he refused to return to that nightmare. Luria suddenly appeared in the room and greeted Great, and her presence was so strong that even two high-ranking mages noticed her. Tensing the atmosphere, Rate, embarrassed, said that he had urgent matters. But Luria grabbed him by the shoulder, sat next to him, and said how long it had been since they last saw each other. Noticing Lafay and Sylvia, Luria teased Rat, saying that he was the one who charms cute girls. Regarding whether they were his girlfriends, Rat explained that they were just friends, scolded her for rudeness to strangers, and joked that because of such behavior she was still alone. Luria stopped, smiled, said that he had something on his face, and touched his nose. With one light movement, Wrath was thrown into the air like a feather, left the girl stunned by Luria's strength. Late asked who she was. Her behavior changed when Luria introduced herself as the rating's mentor, the legendary Mimi. Late and Sylvia introduced themselves in response. Rate asked why she came to the capital, and Luria explained her mission. Pulls a letter from the royal family out of her clothes. Wrath was surprised that she had connections with people. Luria admitted that she had connections with the royal family, but did not like their fallen hero, who was named after her, and at the same time praised Rui. Sylvia, understanding something, asked if she was Luria James, who repelled the horde of dragons that attacked the capital and helped rebuild it. Minnie, known as the greatest sorceress, was impressed that the young girl recognized her, and Rate asked Laffy if it was true, and she confirmed. Moreover, Luria's demand for compensation in the form of free drinks at every establishment was excessive, and Rate, knowing that Luria cared little about money, doubted whether they had made a mistake with the person. Lathe explained that Luria demanded free drinks throughout the capital, emptied all the bars for 3 days and nights, and because of this, the restoration celebration was postponed. Rate knew it was her. Sylvia told how Rate saved her life, and Luria smiled at him. Rat recalled receiving a similar royal request and asked if Luria would accept it, and she said it depended on the task, as the letter only vaguely asked her to come. This made Rates doubt why they had hidden the details from his mentor. Luria suggested teaching Sylva magic during their stay, and this pleased her. Rat wanted to warn Sylvia not to get too attached, but seeing her enthusiasm, he restrained himself. He noticed that Sylvia had an S-rank status in adventures and could handle even a dragon's nest. Luria planned to start training tomorrow. Rat apologized and left, and Laffy and Sylvia had their own matters. Rat asked Luria what she would do next, and she, without plans, decided to follow him. They went to his workshop, which she liked. Daisy, irritated by the delay in payment, asked who Luria was. Luria introduced herself. Daisy asked if she was a fallen heroine, and Luria confirmed it. Daisy's keen gaze made Luria nervous. Rate asked Daisy if she had time, and she recalled that she had received a rare ingredient, processing which would take more time. Daisy asked about Luria's purpose. Luria offered to help to apologize for postponing her punishment. Daisy agreed, showing them a rare southern plant used in cooking and medicine. Luria asked how it would be used in Daisy's first aid kit. As soon as Luria checked that there were enough materials, she started working. She explained that this material retains heat well and has antibacterial properties, but a small mistake in its preparation could cause a sharp smell, making it unsellable. Luria knew how to control this with magic and felt confident. Daisy and Rate were impressed. Luria asked for magical bottles, explaining that they were suitable for storage, but Rate was still making them. Luria decided to use her bottles, and as soon as she snapped her fingers, some and others appeared in the room, leading Daisy, who was noticeably surprised. She hoped for at least a little praise, but Daisy was not the one to give it. Rat noticed that their mentor's approach, which combined alchemy and magic, differed from his own methods. Daisy saw for the first time someone simultaneously using spatial and control magic, and in her thoughts combined Rite and Luria. Vrafe objected, saying he had not drunk and had fulfilled his duties, and was more practical than Luria. Luria admitted that she could effortlessly create elixirs, but Ray said quietly that she made elixirs to pay the bar bills. Seeing them argue, Daisy looked at the bottles and realized that both underestimated their value. In the next chapter, Ruth asks why Luria followed him. As if it was completely normal, She explained that visiting the apprentice's workshop is the mentor's duty. Reit yielded and allowed her to stay because she completed the task for the day. Although Luria seemed to have decided to bother him, he asked her not to wander too much. Although she hesitated, she agreed. When she asked about his plans to open a shop, he said he was considering it but had not yet decided. As soon as she entered, Luria ignored his instructions, wandered around, picked up items, swung in the hammock, and asked about everything that caught her attention. Rat wondered if she planned to stay in the kingdom. She confirmed, making him realize that he would have to cook again, wash her clothes, and clean up after her. When he was in a bad mood, Luria assumed he was happy to live again with his mentor. She asked for alcohol, but Reit reminded her of his age. When he asked where she had been, she explained that she was gathering ingredients and visiting friends. Her teleportation magic, though powerful, consumes too much energy to use often. Interested in his appearance in the capital, Luria listened as Rat told that monsters had appeared near his old house, and he ran out of money, so he started selling potions. Since he left that house, life had been hard, and now he was pressured by both his mentor and royal requests. Reit decided to cook food, but Luria refused to help, confessing that she did not know how to cook, and he was shocked that a person who was well-versed in alchemy and magic lacked basic culinary skills. One attempt by Luria to cook food caused Rat's stomach pain and proved that she was a bad cook. While Rat was cooking, Luria was going around other rooms and thinking about how much he had changed. She entered a very cold room and quickly retreated. She thought it might have been Sylvia's enchantment, because Reit did not know how to use magic, and moved on to the last room. The last room was dark and damp, initially seeming empty. Suspecting a thief, Luria prepared to confront him. Hearing her scream, Reit ran to her, finding her in tears over time. Insects were crawling everywhere. He explained that these insects were valuable. They produced unique threads that withstood magical enhancements. Reit suggested using such things as shoes and bags to lift Luria's spirits. And after dinner, he asked her to help with a project. While they were eating, he remembered the task and warned her not to talk with her mouth full, and explained that they needed to make a magical device. Luria was shocked that Rat could not make it himself, but he explained that magic was needed for this, which he could not handle alone. She confidently told him to trust his mentor. And although Rat appreciated her enthusiasm, he noted that she did not need to use all her power, because it could destroy the capital overnight. When she asked about the project, he said they were making a bag. This bag would expand to hold many things, and Luria was to apply spatial magic. Reit also hoped that she would help if something went wrong. He considered her mentorship equivalent to 100 assistants and said he used a new method to create the bag. The materials included threads from a beetle that had previously scared Luria. They were stronger than mithril, conducted magic well, hardly broke by hand, and could support the weight of an adult man. He showed her the bag in which he wove a magical circle into the threads. After making sure there were no bugs in the bag, Luria began the process. When she finished, Reit asked if it worked, but Lorian was confident and checked it by putting the item inside. Seeing that the bag worked, Luria expected a cheeky remark from him, but he just thinks about her, which moved her to tears, prompted her to ask him to go have a drink with her. Reit said he was still underage, but when she offered him some juice, he had no excuses left. Later, Sylvie went to her first magic lesson with Luria and Reit. Luria was asked if she had any teaching preferences, and she considered teaching Sylvie spatial magic. When Luria offered to teach Sylvie magic, Reit joined them with concern, although Sylvie seemed excited. While he was thinking, Luffy asked Rat if he was worried, assuring that his Sylvie was not fragile. She noted that personal lessons from Luria, the hero who saved the city from giant dragons, were rare, and she regretted that as a swordswoman she could not teach Sylvie herself. Reit asked if it would be bad because Sylvie was hurt, and Late agreed that it would. Luria suggested starting with translocation magic, highly developed spatial magic. She assured Sylvia that there was no need to worry about the difficulty, speaking of her talent, but Sylvia was already hesitant. Laffy said that Luria chose translocation on a whim, and Rada Grid noted her impulsiveness, and although he added that sometimes she can be reliable, Laffy understood that this also means her unreliability. Luria demonstrated translocation, disappearing and appearing in another place. Sylvia applauded, but expecting her to try immediately was unrealistic. Celeria first let her feel the magic by taking Sylvia's hands, directed the magic, and Sylvia felt it. Luria insisted that she try, but Sylvia was confused and did not know how to act. With a snap of Luria's fingers, so the advantage. leaving everyone stunned and worried. Sylvia appeared again in the sky. She fell onto Rate and he caught her safely. Knowing that Luria was responsible for this, Rate scolded her and jokingly threatened to put a bug on her pillow that night so she would regret it. Luria asked Sylvia if she felt magic during this experience. Sylvia confirmed that she did and decided to practice there to preserve that feeling. She explained that during the creation of magic, it is important not to lose the connection between the target coordinates. They started with moving small objects, for example, one of Rate's elixirs. It was handed to Sylvia, and she tried to shift its place. Sylvia shifted the elixir but accidentally fired. She broke it. Luria noted that despite the minor damage, the teleportation still worked. She said that an ordinary person would not be able to do this, and Sylvia only needed to focus on the connection. If you don't focus, it is easy to damage what you are moving. Sylvia wondered what would happen if she tried to teleport a person, and Luria casually replied that they could split. That day the magic lesson ended with only one successful attempt. Late asked when they met. Luria said that she and Rat met 7 years ago. Then many events happened, and Rat became her student at 10 years old. Sylvia noted how incredible their meeting was, as if a collision of gifted minds. Lauren admitted that she already knew Rate's parents. She could not imagine that they would have a child so perfect for alchemy as Rate. Sylvia was surprised, so Rat explained that his parents were adventurers and could compete with Luria, but he did not inherit their combat skills. He did not have their talent for fighting. Instead, he had a unique gift for alchemy, so Luria became his mentor. He admitted that he might not have become her student if he had known her true character back then. Sylvia told how she was delighted to meet Luria. Luria's friends approached the girls and whispered something, causing them to smile at Rat. He asked what she said, and she informed him that she told them that. Despite harsh words, he had a gentle side. She said that Rate sent her a birthday gift every year, showing his kindness. That evening, Rat returned home and saw a mess. Luria was clutching a bottle of alcohol in her hand. Rafe was trying to understand what had happened earlier. Luria asked for permission to drink just one bottle. She insisted that it was harmless. Rafe doubted, but she kept reminding him that she helped him with his magic bag. He reluctantly agreed, but only to one bottle during dinner. He was uneasy, although Luria was no novice at drinking. He apologized to Sylvia and moved forward and began preparing dinner. Then a loud noise interrupted him, and he went to check on Luria in the room where she was drinking. Now Rate asked what had happened, and Laforti explained that Luria had suddenly used her magic. The bottle of alcohol looked untouched, but Wright suspected she had used teleportation magic to drink directly from it while Wright was drunk. Filling it with water using magic, Wright told her to sit down and promised not to scold her for drinking. She denied being drunk. Leith asked what to do, but before Rhett could answer, the wind began throwing everything around the room. It was Luria who was casting spells even while drunk. Although magic usually requires strong concentration, she could use it instinctively, relying on skills embedded in her body. Risking destroying the house, Sylvia managed to cancel her magic, and it worked. Because of this, she fainted. Rat gave her a potion so that she would recover. He decided never to allow her to drink again. Luffy asked Rat to look after her while they cleaned up. Ray thanked Laffy and began pulling Lure Sims. Wrath had a plan and allowed Sins to rest while he worked on something with Renee. The fruit was very wet, and Wrath wanted to check it first, but there was little time. Lorraine caused problems for Leith and Sylvia, so Rhett hoped this would be an apology. He engaged in alchemy, and the liquid began to bubble. The mixture turned out well, so Rat was satisfied. In the end, he added Saudi, creating something other than an elixir for the first time, but everything turned out fine. Returning to the room, he saw her significantly cleaner. He showed his work and said it was a sign of gratitude. They asked what it was, but he decided to show them. A rift appeared in the light, and the bottle shone. It seems the girls liked it. The rare juice from the fruits glows in different colors depending on the light. Sagi, a plant that absorbs magical energy from the soil, emits light and darkness. When combined through alchemy, it produces a stunning glow highly valued in the kingdom. They thanked Rat but had to leave due to a direct request and matters for tomorrow, the Linford family. A famous noble family descended from a renowned herbalist who fought over 100 years ago, known for magical talent and military feats. Thanks to their achievements, the Linfords became one of the 4 great noble families of the kingdom. They constantly provided skilled herbalists and mages who protected the country. Set Linford, the eldest son, received a reprimand. His sister Elisha scolded him for sighing because she believed it drove away happiness. Although she encouraged him, Set remained depressed. Alicia cheered Set up so that he would smile. She said he looked better that way and asked if he was thinking about Atu. Set was indeed thinking about him and was sad due to the lack of news. She then pondered that it might be related to what their father had previously said about the royal family. Set's silence confirmed her assumption. Alicia told Set that she wanted him to lead the family, but not at the cost of his own happiness. Set replied that he did not mind taking on this role, but if he steps back, the duty will fall on Aura or his younger brother. He surpassed Set both in herbalist skills and magical abilities, believes he has a better chance to lead the family and feels resentment towards him, but to lead the family one must inherit the territory, which means standing out not only in skills but also in character, and despite outstanding abilities, his flaws make him far from an ideal family leader. Alicia told Set that their father considers him the successor, so everything should go smoothly if all goes well. Set replied that depending on the outcome of the situation with the royal family, they might even change the established order of succession to the throne. Recently an order came from the royal family, and although Alicia did not know the details of the letter, she knew that 2 people were chosen to carry it out. Set said he would do everything possible, but admitted that the car knows better than he does. He noted that if he were more capable than Otto, they would not have this problem now. Alicia tried to explain, but Set interrupted her, saying that everything would be fine, and he would somehow resolve it. Alicia hoped that nothing bad would happen. Set jokingly teased her before going to their father. He felt guilty for causing Alicia so much worry. Entering the hall, he saw Tsuihou and heard mocking words directed at him, and suggested they meet with their father together. Seth could not refuse, and they began to walk. He could not refuse because he did not know what Adam would say if he declined. While they were walking, Oda said that this was a great opportunity to prove to their father who was better suited to lead the family, and Seth just wanted to focus on his training. At the same time, in the Rate's house, Luria woke up after falling out of her bed. To Rat, she looked like an insect. She rubbed against him, asking him to take care of her. Whatever she said, Reed looked at her sternly and told her to put off complaints until later and get ready. Because that day they were heading to the royal castle. The day came when they received a direct request from the royal family, and Ray considered it important not to make a bad impression. Luria seemed relaxed, but Rhett smiled at her with a cold smile, to remind her that they had restored their relationship again, thanks to her. Before getting ready, Luria thought about how much that annoying ghost irritated him and missed his kinder and younger self. With a snap of her fingers, she was ready to go. She wanted breakfast, but Rat said there was no time. If she wanted to accuse someone, she should have accused herself. Luria complained that she was hungry while they were walking, but Ray ignored her and asked how well she knew the royal family. Luria said she had defeated giant dragons for them, and that gave her some influence. Rat considered it useful, but she explained that they did not want her to break ties because they could continue to use her. She left the kingdom because staying and carrying out their tasks would be troublesome, and Rat did not know what she had to go through. Luria giggled and warned Rat to be careful as her student. She said that the kingdom probably perceived her as a free-spirited person who was hard to ask for favors. Knowing this, they would probably next pay attention to her disapproval. In other words, from now on, Ruth might start receiving many requests. Rhett did not want to carry out her orders. They approached a place from where the castle was visible. Luria started running, happy that there might be food there. Rate tried to stop her, but in vain. She behaved like a child, and it could happen that the food would not be prepared, and that would upset her. When they approached the gates, Wrath was impressed by their size. The soldiers stopped them after they showed a letter from the royal family. The soldiers quickly apologized and led them inside. As they walked, Luria said that the dragons were as big as a castle. Ruth was stunned, but then someone bumped into him. Otter insulted them, calling them commoners. Luria got angry and demanded to know what his problem was, because they did not know him. Rat thought about whether Otto was also summoned to the castle. Otto said it was not his fault and that he had already apologized. But he still deliberately pushed Wrath. The maids came in and apologized for the delay. Rate felt awkward about the situation. In the room, they found Seth and Otto, who were already there. Wright was surprised that they were seated in the same waiting room as the nobles, together with the man who had been there earlier. Luria, ignoring the others, thought only about hunger. Set Rose greeted them with a smile and offered snacks. They thanked him, gave their names, and asked for the purpose of their visit. Wrath explained that he was Mimi's apprentice and had come to fulfill a request. Set noticed that Rat was similar to them because he and his brother Otto acted on the orders of the royal family. Someone else laughed and remarked that nobles like Set should not associate with commoners as it could spoil their status. Set sharply replied that it was none of his business, although he seemed unshaken. Wright noticed their tension, but only wanted to return home. The preparation was completed, and they were ready to proceed. It should suddenly look as if they were munged, and apologizing, Set expressed regret for his brother's actions. He entered, and the father of the royal family asked them to relax. Luria warmly greeted Wilbur and jokingly said that he had aged. After a short pause, Wilbur admitted that age was taking its toll. Luria asked why they had been summoned, doubting that it was a simple conversation. Wilbur said that the Linfords present already knew the reason, but explained it to Luria, James, and her apprentice, who did not know. He had one task, to return the crystal dragon, the national symbol. For over 300 years, this rare dragon had been worshipped, and it produced crystals. He urged them to preserve it, and so it happened. The crystals, which were usually flawless, were now darkening and spoiling. The dragon's body was gradually shrinking. Luria explained that the goal was to heal it. Although Ruber was not sure, one more step assured the king that he had healed it. Irritated by his confidence, Luria stated that her apprentice could also quite possibly succeed. The king was surprised by Rat's youth. Luria insisted that Rat was more skilled than the other young man. Rat asked her not to expect too much and promised the king to do his best. Luria, ready to focus, asked if this had happened before. The king said it had not. Luria asked for details about the dragon's diet and habits. He explained that the dragon ate metals and often wandered the courtyard or castle with his daughter. Wraith wanted to examine this carefully. The dragon seemed restless but remained motionless. Wraith analyzed him carefully, noting reactions. The king asked if he found anything. Rat suggested that the dark coloration arose from tiny metal particles in the crystals, although the dragon usually fully digests metals. Wraith suggested that the dragon either does not digest metals or something happens to them after digestion, and explained that his intestines were clogged with undigested metals that blocked the vessels. Usually dissolved metals reached the surface of the body, but now the blockages interfered with normal flow, and he concluded that fluid movement in the dragon's vessels had stopped and caused dangerous accumulation. He asked if the crystal dragon ate metals as usual, and the reed replied no. Perhaps the dragon's instincts sensed a life threat because excess fluid could rupture his vessels. In human terms, this pain would be like blood vessels bursting, and Wraith sincerely pitied the dragon and promised to find a cure. The king asked if he had any solutions, and Rat suggested trying an idea he had just come up with. The king gave permission, and Wraith approached the dragon. At first, the dragon did not allow him to touch it. Thus, Wrath filed a lawsuit about this, promising to help. He tried to use transformation magic on the dragon. Unlike magic, alchemy uses the practitioner's available materials and relies on the power of influence, which might allow him to extract metals from the dragon's crystal. However, this ability had its limits, and Wraith's influence, although stronger than Luria's influence, did not affect the dragon. Ray realized that it would not be so simple. Luria insisted that he try a different approach. Wrath apologized to the king, explained that this was all he could do for now, and promised to return later with a solution. Before leaving the castle, someone warned Wrath not to act hastily. Seth appeared to discuss a deal with him in the next chapter. Lorian led Seth and Rhett to the nearest cafe because she was hungry. After the meal, Seth asked Rhett to help him. Rhett was puzzled and wondered if Seth meant to take credit for this task. Seth clarified that he did not mind Rhett fulfilling the request. He wanted to prevent his brother from doing it. Rafe did not care who exactly would do it. The main thing was that the work was done. Since the request concerned the country's symbol, Seth noted that if it came from the royal family, it was not important for the family who did it, but for him it was personal. He said that he was the eldest son of an influential noble family and was to inherit the leadership. Luria knew this family, famous for their herbalists, and knew that they did not like her because her alchemical skills surpassed their work and her arrival threatened them. The problem was that the result of this request could pass the family legacy to Seth's younger brother, which he very much wanted to avoid. He sought cooperation regarding tariffs to prevent this. Ray considered the proposal and agreed. Unlike Audi, Seth saw this as a chance to get more money for his shop and was kind and modest. Faith wanted to know why Seth was so determined to lead the family. Seth explained that his younger sister supported his claim. He did not entrust this responsibility to his brother. People around teased Seth for his good intention and humiliated him, but Reith called it a noble cause. Wrath noticed that Seth was accessible to the aristocrat, and although he did not seem reserved, he thought he should be more restrained. Rat said that he had little communication with high-status people, such as noble families, but values kindness and wants to be friendly regardless of status. Seth, although his noble status restrained personal feelings, valued the meeting with Reith, who treated him as an equal. They shook hands with Seth Iger to cooperate. They began discussing plans, and Rat asked what Seth knew about the crystal dragon. Seth admitted that even the nobility rarely saw a dragon, so he did not have more information than Reith. Rafe did not yet have clear plans. Luria suggested conducting experiments, but it was impossible because it concerned a national symbol. It was necessary to determine the metals. The crystal dragon could not dissolve or those that returned to their original form after dissolving. He asked if Seth knew a place in the kingdom where liquid metals were processed, and if they could find a liquid metal that easily changes state. This could meet the requirements he mentioned earlier, and to learn more, they needed to visit the place where they worked with liquid metals circulating through the kingdom. He inspected the rooms, and she only knew where to drink in the city. Ray thought about who could handle the liquid metals and came up with how to do it. Luria asked if he had someone in mind, but Rate warned that it could cause problems if someone less qualified was involved. He began to come up with ideas, which annoyed Luria. She insisted that they act immediately, and they set off somewhere. Nimi led them to a girl who was very happy when she saw Nimi. Luria could hardly believe her eyes. Her name was Nicola, but at first she did not recognize her. After a moment, she remembered that Nicola had taken care of her a few years ago when she was drunk. Rate, embarrassed, was already about to leave. He explained that they were there because their task was to research liquid metals. Nicola felt something unusual, something unavoidable. The aristocrat and alchemist working on the same task aroused suspicion. She said she knew a few necessary places and asked if they were looking for something specific. He asked if any metals easily transition from solid to liquid state. When he touched the dragon crystals, he felt warmth, as if blood flowed inside them. If the surface was so warm, then inside it was probably even hotter, he reasoned. Nicola recalled a new liquid metal recently imported from the south. Rhett guessed it was called silver, and he was right. However, she noted that little had been imported and nothing remained. Set said this information was still useful because he could inform the family to find. Rafe doubted that would succeed, noting that obtaining silver was mostly a matter of chance. Silver was found only in volcanic areas, alongside another metal that looked almost identical and under normal conditions was indistinguishable, because this silvery white metal was liquid and could be recognized precisely in liquid form when the volcano was calm. But spirits lived in the volcanoes with silver. Spirits lived in natural phenomena and were visible only to those with strong magical abilities. They could also influence volcanic activity. Nicola apologized for not being able to help more, but Red assured her she was very helpful and asked her to help search for any silver still in the kingdom. He offered in return to give her the property of Lorraine, and Nicola gladly agreed to help. Reith instructed Seth to try to obtain some through his family or check if the royal family had anything left. After 5 days, they had no success. Wrath asked again if they had found anything, but their efforts yielded no results, and the royal family had nothing left. Nicola also found nothing. Rate decided to find out directly from the source. It would be difficult to distinguish it from similar metal, even with its analysis. He asked if Laramie could cool silver with magic. She suggested that it might work in a spirit-free zone, but was afraid to interfere with their power. She said she could manage if the spirits allowed her to use magic. Rate was impressed that she could communicate with them. She explained that the spirits of great natural phenomena are sometimes intelligent, and if lucky, friendly, otherwise they risk being burned. It seemed their best option was to negotiate with the spirits. Rat asked if she could defeat enemies if they became hostile, but the answer was discouraging. He realized that action was necessary. He said that if his mentor could not overcome them, they would have to create a magical device to win. In particular, one that enhances magical energy. He also planned to create a ring to amplify magical power. Luria admitted that she does not know any magical circle for this. Ray admitted that it was a new idea he came up with during her absence and was confident that she could easily implement it. Luria objected, saying that such a complex magic circle was beyond her power and only Rat could handle it. In the next scene, Wraith prepared to begin the process. Not knowing how to use magic himself, he relied on Set and Luria to help with testing. He showed a scarlet crystal, not an alchemical substance for enhancing magic. When Seth began to draw a circle, he became uneasy about this matter. When Wrath finished, he asked who wanted to try first, and Seth hesitated. Luria agreed. Seth asked if it was safe, and Wraith assured him that it only glows and does no harm to anyone. When Miriam touched the circle, their eyes lit up from the bright light. In the next chapter, Sylvia and Leifing noticed a flash in their house and rushed inside. Test of light magic on the magical amplification device caused severe eye injuries in 3 people from the light that shone like a second sun. Lassie noted that they were lucky to be nearby. Sylvia prepared dinner and asked them to move. Luria was barely getting up from his seat when they started talking about food. Set reminded Rat of his previous concerns about safety. Rat apologized, but no. They directly proved the power of magical circles. Set replied that he would rather not experience this personally. Wraith's abilities looked extraordinary because no ordinary alchemist could achieve such. Seeing the interested looks of Leith and Sylvia, he introduced himself. Observing Leith's expression, Red explained that he met Set while working on a request from the royal family, and their injury occurred due to an experiment related to this. Silly noted that Wraith has a tendency to get into trouble. Wraith then asked Lathi and Sylvia for a favor. He hoped that it was not trivial. He invited them to join him on the Vulumulu volcano, a huge volcano in the southern Delicate Mountains. Since ancient times, it was revered as a place where spirits live. Wraith thanked them for joining and admitted that he felt awkward when there were only 3 of them. Late, who owed him, did not object to helping. Wraith muttered embarrassedly that it was convenient to have 2 ranked adventurers with him. Lafay shifted the conversation to the spirits, who made the mountain red. Luria warned that if you stay in the mountains at night, you could bring on cursed fire, and said that spirits are stronger than people, and those resembling people or animals are especially powerful. She felt that they had already noticed the spirits, so the salamander spirit fiercely guarded against strangers. Wraith, Hope, and the villagers would be open to discussion, and decided to visit the nearest village, which seemed calm and relaxed. Sylvia suddenly gasped. It made Wraith worry that something was wrong, but she was simply delighted with the cute plush toy. Other girls also reached for plush toys, while Seth and Wraith stood aside. The seller explained that the dolls were made in the image of Salamander, a creature from the Lulu volcano, and they looked different than Seth had imagined. The seller warned that it was currently impossible to climb the volcano. They pointed to the red, distorted outskirts visible from the village. It was due to the power of Salamander, which made the volcano too hot for people, drying them out in a few minutes. If they still wanted to go, they would have to wait until Salamander fell asleep. Wraith took an item from his pocket and suggested using it to solve the problem. The seller warned that magical illusions would not protect them from Salamander's power. But Wraith still wanted to try it. The seller laughed and wished them luck as they left the store. Meanwhile, Salamandra was angry that people dared to enter her domain. She was sure they would not withstand her heat. When the group was approaching the volcano, no one was sweating, and Rat was glad that his plan was working. He gave everyone a few rings from the hits and 3 magical rings for enhancement, but each could only be used once, so he asked them to be careful. Set did not understand how these devices could protect them when magic itself was failing. The group trusted the factory tariffs and said that they were fine, but suddenly a voice said that this was not allowed. Wrath asked if anyone else heard it, but Laughing did not hear. Sylvia asked how far they needed to go, and Luria replied that it depended on where the spirit was located. Wraith thought that random attacks on the mountain could provoke the appearance of the spirit. To demonstrate, Wraith jokingly pushed a stone. But suddenly a monster appeared. Lath scolded him for drawing monsters, and Wraith, surprised, called the creature fiery. To everyone's surprise, the monster denied that it was fiery. Rhett heard it speak, but Laffy insisted that monsters cannot talk. The monster began to spin, to push Lathe to draw her sword and attack. Lauren noticed the complex relief and the monster's back covered with stones. Billy recognized his exposed weak spot. Thanks to the ability to transform, he targeted Billy, allowing Lafty to strike his weak spots. Laffy grabbed the sword, jumped high, and struck the monster in the stomach, defeating it. After a safe landing, she scolded Wrath for his reckless actions. Rate said that if they followed this path, they could reach the spirit. But Lathe's gaze made him retreat. Since Lathe was protecting him, Wrath did not argue and agreed to follow her. Continuing further, they noticed that the road was terrible. Luria suggested finding another way, but Rate proposed creating it through transformation. When he touched the ground to start, he heard the voice again, warning him not to interfere in his territory and not allowing him to do so. Looking up, Rate saw a huge bird flying in the twilight. Tell them loudly so that everyone runs. He asked Late if she could handle it, but the bird, it seemed, was not going to descend yet. Set noticed the emergency and decided to use his ring. Set found it difficult to use the magic of victory, but suddenly it malfunctioned, went out of his control, and threatened to explode. In a matter of moments, an explosion sounded and Set was thrown down. As he was falling, before this trip, he remembered a conversation with his sister, in which he said that Rat would make magical devices for them. His sister laughed and said how wonderful it was to see that Seth was having such a good time, noting that it was the happiest sheet they had seen recently. Seth replied that Rate's ability to speak casually with someone from a noble family made it easy. Then his brothers came and insulted and humiliated him again. Seth replied that this matter did not concern his brother because he was cold. Replied that Seth could humiliate himself as much as he wanted, but tomorrow he needed to be careful. The brothers' departure made Seth doubt whether he had done something wrong. His hope and desire to live. In his thoughts, he apologized to everyone and gave in to the fall. Unexpectedly, Rate rushed after him to save him. He stretched out his hand to grab Seth's wrist. Pulling Seth closer, Rhett used the shock resistance of his ring to land without serious injuries. He checked if Seth was okay, and Seth confirmed it, then pondered over what had happened earlier. Seth assumed that his brother had probably used countermagic against him in advance, and Ray asked if such deadly acts happen among brothers and sisters, but Seth, not surprised, simply thanked Rat for saving him. Then he asked how they would manage to escape. Since they no longer had the ring of resistance to blows or the ring that enhanced magic, the volcano teemed with monsters, so they needed to join Lafayette and others. From this position, they could activate the status of their ally. Ray thought to wait, but Seth called. They went out and saw a huge serpent looking at them. They ran from the serpent until they were killed. They finally escaped from his pursuit. Having run far, they became confused. They are not sure where they have been since entering the volcano, which was constantly attacked by monsters. Then Rat heard the voice again, warning him not to interfere in his domain. He asked Set if he heard a muffled voice after arrival, but Set did not hear anything. Set asked if Rat heard something, but Rat waved it off and said it was his imagination. Noticing the red stone he had already seen, Rate mentioned it, but Set noted that there were many similar stones here. To avoid risk, Rate marked the stone. They continued walking only to again find the marked rock, thereby confirming that they were stuck in a loop. They sat down and looked for ways to escape. Rate thought about confronting whoever caused the loop, but being stuck complicated the matter. Sets assumed that if space magic created a loop, then certain coordinates could be connected. Rathgren suggested that they could disrupt those coordinates with a burst of earth-transforming magic. Set understood what he meant and tried to enter Gwynber, because Rafe said that real men give everything. Set asked to be careful, but they were interrupted by an explosion. While the girls wondered where they were, Sylvia asked what would happen next. Luria felt that they were still on the volcano. She noticed a strange arrangement of magic indicating entanglement in spatial magic. As long as she sensed their magic, they were alive. Asked the question of who else could possess such advanced spatial magic. Minnie looked at her soft toy and said that the salamander probably perceived them as enemies, so negotiating would be difficult. A loud roar rolled as the creature declared this area its territory and did not allow people to act freely. A monstrous figure made of wind appeared before them. The salamander spirits quietly said that they only wanted to talk, but the salamander demanded that they leave immediately. Luria Sims quietly told Sylvia to be ready to use magic at any moment. Sylvia explained to the salamander that they came to the volcano to look for a special metal that is only there, and asked it to release their two companions held by its master. The salamanders refused and said they would stay forever. Laurie warned him that he would regret it if he did not let him go. Irritated, the salamander lunged at them, but an explosion stopped it. He was confused and stopped, and Laurie realized that it was real. A scream sounded as something fell to the ground. It was Rat and Seth. Seth grumbled that he had fallen twice from a deadly height in one day, although he tried to avoid it. They would have been doomed without their last ring of protection from blows. Wreath, ignoring Seth's complaints, smiled, looked at the limbs, and pointed behind himself at Solomon. It was clear that both sides were stunned to see each other. Red explained that thanks to his skills, he was able to free them with an explosion using alchemy, but the salamander doubted and insisted that in his domain no one could freely use alchemy. Wrath did not suspect and laughed as if it was not strange at all. Even Luria noticed that here alchemy might be easier to use than magic, although limited. She suggested that right might be an exception. This angered the salamander, and it roared again. Luria told Sylvia to repel his magic when the flame rushed at them. The ratings arranged them and protected them, and this stunned the salamander. The magic ring from Right amplified Sylvia's power tenfold. The salamander, now free, promised to burn them all to ashes. Luria, using the power of her ring, struck the salamander. After the attack, everyone was stunned to see the weapon of the salamander. Rates noticed that the small hammer was moving. It resembled Sylvia's doll. It ran to them, but Sylvia happily caught it. The salamander, which was still inside, demanded that she release it. Rhett was surprised when he realized that this creature was a salamander. He wondered if this was its true form, but it simply explained it as excessive use of its power. Luria Ames grabbed it, realized it was too weak to threaten them, and smiled. The salamander behaved strangely for a moment, then tried to bite her. She made a move to strike, but another stopped her. When the tension subsided, Rat explained that they had come to the volcano for a certain metal. They needed the salamander to remove the magic from the volcano. The salamander was still defiant and saw no reason to obey the invaders. That was all. Noticing her stubbornness, he gently told the salamander that they needed something from the volcano, and politely asked it for help. Moved by her sincere look, he gave in and told them to leave as soon as they got it. Filled with joy, he hugged him tightly for a while. Ray felt that the salamander had surpassed him, and Set realized that he did not like her attitude. The salamander dispelled the spells and led them to the silver. He warned them not to take unnecessary actions. Ray thanked him and they gathered the silvery. Later Set returned to the Linford house, where his sister met him. She asked if he was wounded. He replied that thanks to everyone's help they achieved their goal. When Set asked her, she looked puzzled. Otter approached and confidently spoke to him. He becomes very fast if magic of obstacles is applied to him, but he denied it and pretended to be offended. Then Set asked about the progress of his request. He confirmed that it was moving forward, advised Set to remain patient and let him handle it. Set tensed, preparing to respond, but noticed that Alicia was looking at him. She asked what was going on and playfully pinched his cheeks. Set explained that this was not the first time he had behaved like this and promised to punish him when he became a lord. Lucia expressed concern for him and said that his problem was going shopping with her. Set had no choice. He had to set aside a day for it. Meanwhile, Rat was walking around the city, inspecting the aftermath of the volcanic eruption. Late and Sylvia returned home to start the next task. Meanwhile, Set visited his sister, and Lem began drinking. He reminded Set about the silver experiment in their plan and noted that Set was very busy. Luria was probably absent all night, so he had one unresolved matter left. I am entering the women's store. He was nervous because the women were whispering about his presence. He cheered himself up and reminded himself that he had only come to buy gifts for Lathe and Sylvia, and then a female voice called out, asking if there was wrath. And you will immediately recognize Amelia. She questioned his presence in such a place, and he clicked. He was buying gifts for Lathe and Sylvia. Amelia seemed puzzled, so he explained that they had recently helped him a lot. Noticing her sudden disappointment, she asked if he had already decided. Rate admitted that he did not know what they found cute or what they liked, and asked her for help. Amelia willingly agreed to help. He said he was considering dolls as gifts and recalled that Laffy liked cute things. It was unexpected, given her strength and courage, which could surpass any man. Amelia warned him not to say that in her presence. Rat noted that Laffy had previously refused an accessory that was offered to him because he was afraid the same would happen with the doll. Amelia looked at him strangely, suspecting that Lathe was too shy to accept it. She caught him using it to hide it from him and decided not to explain. She suggested choosing a doll, and Rat sighed with relief, but she chose the ugliest one in the store. Rate could not say whether the doll looked like a mouse, a fish, or a chimera. When Amelia found it adorable, he showed her a bunny doll and asked for her opinion. She thought briefly, then insisted that her choice was better and that Leith would like it. Rathover noticed that people have different tastes and like cute things, so he liked the doll and it annoyed him, but Amelia tried hard, so he could not refuse. He came up with a plan to buy both dolls and not give the girls the strange one. The next day he visited Leith and Sylvia's house and handed them gifts. She laughed, blushed, and quietly thanked him. Sylvia politely thanked him and said that Laddie likes cute things but is shy to buy them, confirming her joy. Rate was glad they liked the gifts, but Lori appeared behind him and was clearly upset. She demanded to know what those disgusting things were. He admitted that he also did not want to buy them and I remembered about the second gift. To make the gifts more practical for their adventurous life, he suggested making them weapons, and that interested them. Wraith had not forged weapons since arriving in the capital, but he was confident everything would work out. First, he decided to forge a sword and asked Lathe if she had any specific wishes. She told him it just had to be sharp and strong. Considering Lathe's exceptional physical strength, her weapon had to be strong enough to match her capabilities. If the sword could withstand her swings and not break, Lathe would not cause any problems. Wraith asked to see her current sword, which Lathe showed him. Lathe relied on swordsmanship skills and her strength, so her sword was heavy because she believed that light weapons lacked striking power. Considering the weight of the sword, the thickness of the blade, the handle, and the length, Wraith decided that chalkum would be the best material. Lathe objected that such a valuable material was not needed, but Wraith assured her it was fine because he rarely used it himself. He put coal and orchockum into the furnace, heated it several times, and took it out. When the orchockum began to glow, he strengthened the material and worked it with a hammer, transferring the light from the hammer to the metal. Finally, he used transformation magic and let it cool. While waiting, he started with Sylvia's staff, asking her about her preferences. She requested a staff that would be light and not hinder her movement. Sylvia's staff was supposed to do not only what helps a mage cast spells, it also had to enhance magical power. Usually such staffs were forged from ores that conducted magic well, so they were saturated with it. Rafe considered mithril but wanted to try another material. The key to the staff is the part through which magic passes. Instead of a usual magical gem, Rate came up with another option. He took materials from his own magical power and rings and added some holy water to complete the staff. Sylvia was surprised at how quickly he made it. Rat explained that making a staff is much simpler than a sword, so he could make it quickly. The sword still needed more time, so Wright suggested Sylvia immediately test her staff. He asked Lathe if she could wait until the next day to receive her sword, and she agreed. They went outside to look for slimes as requested. Laughing and Sylvia felt nostalgic because they hadn't hunted slimes together for a long time. When they encountered slimes, Wright asked if the creature was resistant to magic or physical attacks. Laughing explained that a quick sword swing could still cut them. But since the Wrath advisors were there to check the staff, Sylvia began testing her new staff with wind magic. Rat recalled that skilled mages could cut monsters in half using wind magic. Sylvie tried to cut the slimes, but instead split the ground, impressing everyone with the power of the staff. Wraith decided to gather the slimes. It seemed awkward to notice the laughter. She said she felt washed out when Rat asked if she still felt it. Lafayette said the feeling disappeared when she looked around. Sylvia suggested that when Rat chooses her, someone might target him, but they assured him they would protect him. Meanwhile, the butler informed the man about the events and said that Rat went into the forest with 2 rank adventurers to hunt slimes. The man asked if Wrath had done anything noticeable, and the butler replied that the adventurers were very close, and one sensed his presence and became alert. Any actions are risky. An unknown man ordered the butler to continue observing and act if an opportunity arose, waiting until Lathe and Sylvia left Wrath alone. The next day, Lafayette and Sylvia were in the Wraith's house. Wright struggled to carry Lathe's new sword because of its weight, but Lafayette easily lifted it and thanked him. When Wright asked if she wanted to try it, she said no need because she trusted the quality since Wrath made it. After receiving the request to leave the group left, leaving Seth and Wright alone, and Seth noticed how much they were trusted, which unsettled Wright and made him try to change the subject. They finally got the silver they needed, a valuable material that requires careful handling. They opened the box and put it inside. Suddenly, the light went out, and something threw the wreath back. Seth quickly realized it was a magical attack and noticed others. Seeing no one, Wrath asked Seth to drive out the intruder. A man in a hood attacked Seth, whistling, and Seth fell after a strong blow to the stomach. The attacker spared Seth and turned to Rat, confusing him. Rhett realized they wanted silver at the moment the man reached for him. Luria's voice sounded, ordering him to freeze. She warned that if he continued to bother her student, he would be lucky if he only ended up with a few fractures. The man threw knives toward Larry's voice. But many were already behind him. She slammed him to the ground, warning him not to underestimate her because of her gender. She asked Rhett what was happening, and he admitted they had no idea. For now, she decided to remove the mask from the uninvited guest and pull off his hoodie. Seth immediately recognized the man as one of the Order's henchmen. Rat asked about their next move, and Seth said that they could do almost nothing. If Otto found out that his sabotage had failed, he tried again. They tied up the man and returned to their business. In 5 days, they visited the king. The king asked if they had come up with a plan to save the crystal dragon, and Luria confidently replied that otherwise they would not be there. Vrade approached the weak and the dragon without hesitation. With Luria's help, they created a magical device and planned to freeze the mineral so that the dragon would swallow it and turn the silver inside itself back into liquid. The dragon sniffed and swallowed the mineral. Then he used teleportation magic, and a black substance came out of the dragon. Luria used her ability to extract to capture him and keep the extracted silver in a bottle. The dark marks of the dragon disappeared. Within a minute, Wraith was convinced that there was no silver left inside the crystal dragon. Wraith reported to the king that the crystal dragon was completely devoid of silver and fully recovered. The dragon came to life and stood up, surprising the king, who thanked him. Then they informed Seth, and he felt relief. Satisfied, Wraith asked about Seth's progress, and he said that the attacker confessed after some pressure, after which they gave the order to temporarily retreat outside the city, to take care of his family's affairs, and it seems unrealistic. Bate asked about his reward, and Ray asked the Linford family for some ingredients from their supplies. Set the level of greed, but was interested in bets and tensions. Wrath shared a dream of opening a shop. Later in Daisy's store, she asked why he came. He explained that from tomorrow he would regularly help again and had one question. He wanted to open a shop and asked her to explain how it is done. Daisy initially called him stupid. They warned that opening a shop without knowledge is naive. He needs to consider the location, budget, and what he will sell. She noted that selling only potions and ingredients is not enough because there are already many such shops. Rafe suggested creating magical devices, which caused more interest than other ideas. To open a shop, he first needed to get permission from the guild. Wright remembered that the kingdom has strict rules, but with his skills and achievements, he would be approved quickly. Next, he needed to organize the supply of materials and financing. Wright was advised to first get guild permission, and if he was really determined, they would give him further instructions. He thanked her. Started examining the shop and considering its layout as a model for his own store. Noticing that she was silent, Wright continued to inspect the shop. In the forest, a cart drawn by 2 monsters. The carriage carried a girl with black hair and a traveler. The traveler checked if she was comfortable, and she admitted that it was her first time riding in a carriage pulled by an earth dragon. Ariel, an S-ranked adventurer, invited her on a date, but Yuusha, a beautiful girl, refused him. Ariel said she planned to meet another S-rank adventurer who looked amused. Meanwhile, in the guild, Wright greeted Amelia. Shared this as a desire to open a shop. I am almost welcomed. He was explained that he needed to submit product samples and pass a test. Examiner Kill arrived and they began the test, evaluating the product samples. Amelia introduced Kyle as the inspector for those starting a business, explained that the inspection was mostly a formality, so Rat need not worry, and stepped away to prepare the documents. Rat wondered why she was preparing the documents before the exam ended. Kyle explained that Amelia was confident in Rat's success, praised the high quality of his samples that exceeded standards, and he even wanted to buy some of his goods. Kyle emphasized that it was necessary to check whether the Wraith created these items and could produce them in large quantities, so he asked to demonstrate this in practice. Kayla thought that preparing a potion of the highest quality would take at least a day, even if sped up. Kyle was ready to wait, but it was ready in 30 minutes. In 5 minutes, Ray amazingly prepared a first-class potion. She could not understand how he managed so quickly and quietly muttered to herself, while Wrath was focused on writing the exam. Killy reported that Rafe passed, and Amelia returned. Admiring the beauty of the potion, she handed him the documents, confident in his success, and asked if Lathe liked her gift. Rafe casually confirmed that Lafayette liked it, although they were actually in his house. Amelia was glad that Lafayette appreciated the gift, but Rat was tormented by guilt, although he could not tell the truth. He left the guild without upsetting Amelia. For the next step, there was a strange tension in Seth's house when Seth handed over the materials about the ghosts. The behavior of the sets looked suspicious, although the ingredients were ordinary. Rate asked Seth to pretend a little, but Seth refused, doubting that Rate could carry everything. Rafe, confident in himself, put the materials in his magic bag and got ready to leave. Suddenly Leisha ran in, slammed the door, and cried, saying she missed him. He firmly believed that Rat was involved in a suspicious deal with a stranger. The door hit him in the face. Rate's nose was bleeding, but he was given a napkin to stop the blood. Leisha apologized for assuming. But Ray admitted that it was his fault because he was standing like that near the front door. Alicia disagreed, saying that she should have opened the door more carefully. Seth decided to introduce Rate to his sister again, confident that she would see him more often. To Rhett, she seemed like a charming girl. He suddenly realized that she was wise. Seth aspired to become a lord, and it made him smile. Seth told him that she would take his place while he was absent, so Rhett must remember her. Having gathered the necessary ingredients, Rhett was ready to set off. Seth offered him a horse-drawn cart, but Rhett politely declined. At Larry's home, she complained to Rhett, but he was too busy to feed her. We asked her to help sort the ingredients. The creams refused to work while they were hungry. Ruth firmly said that those who do not work do not eat, and if she wants to eat, she must help. She started working, but Wright was not concerned with that now. He was examining the interior and facade of the shop and checking the place for the presence of cleansing devices and rings that enhance magic. The interior is almost ready, only the facade remains to be finished. From the outside, he saw that the house looked ordinary. They put up a sign, but that was not enough. He did not want to overdo it with decorations and noticed a smile. He transformed the plant in the pot into a large flower by his own efforts. At that moment, Lafayette and Sylvia arrived. Hearing that he was working on the store facade, Sylvia offered to help. He explained that only the interior and exterior decoration remained and asked them to suggest a name for the store. Lath was surprised that he would not name it after himself, as she had assumed, and he did not like that, so he invited them to come inside to talk rather than stand outside. He took out paper and ink to write down their ideas. Lath suggested something simple, almost like alchemy. Ray thought briefly and seemed to like it. Lath was surprised that he agreed so quickly. Better to decide quickly than to think too long. He sincerely believed it was a good name. They needed a logo. Lath admitted that she could not draw, but she had read about it. Great said that everything was fine. They just needed to review his design and share their thoughts. He had been thinking about it for some time, but only recently decided to open the store. When you show them the finished logo, they both agreed. Faith felt relieved to have taken this step, and OAS was surprised that it happened so quickly. Lath asked if he had done everything without them, but he said their presence helped him finish quickly. Now he needed to create goods for the shop. Lafay gave him a bento she had prepared herself, encouraging him to do his best. Ruth was delighted and said that he would always appreciate it. He prepared several elixirs but continued. Now he had more products because Seth gave him many ingredients. Time to eat. Angry, he decided to eat the bento made by Lafay. Suddenly, Luria appeared, despite. After she interrupted him, he ate some bento and returned to work. Adventurers wanted special rings of magic, power, and resistance to blows, made by Grace, known for her exceptional skills. These would be the shop's signature products, and he also planned to sell ordinary household items, reworked by him for easier use. Reith made his products hoping that housewives would appreciate them for making household chores easier. As the final step, he put his logo on every item, determined to make the shop successful. Reith proudly placed the logos outside. So why was he ready to work? Early in the morning, there were no customers yet, but he was confident that in a couple of hours the shop would come alive. Convinced that quality goods would sell well, Rat was shocked when after a few months. The shop was empty for 3 days. Daisy visited, noticed his depression, and asked why he was so sad. Depressed, Rat cried and complained about the lack of customers. Later, Daisy returned to check on Rate's shop and asked how things were going. Rat explained that he had hung a sign, cleaned the store, and made a logo, but there were still no customers, and it worried him a lot. And Daisy said that sitting idly would change nothing and advised him to actively attract buyers or use his reputation to promote the shop. It was obvious that Rate had not tried to attract customers. He was stunned for several days and complained that he had no business, doing nothing, and she said that there were many shops with potions in the capital, and an unknown shop without anything special could not compete. She reminded him of his fame and hinted that he could not afford to neglect this advantage. It seems Rates understood what he needed to do. He asked Daisy about her experience opening her shop. She said that her contacts among adventurers through the guild spread the word about the shop and helped her find customers. Rafe liked the idea of using social connections to promote his store and saw that it was realistic for him. Daisy added that Nate's high-quality products would likely become popular even with minimal effort if he found a few customers who would tell others about them. She emphasized that it was necessary to work actively to attract the first customers. Rat, now clearly knowing his next steps, eagerly began to implement his plan. Daisy encouraged Rhett to keep moving forward, jokingly said he didn't need it, but still wished him luck. When Rhett set off, he remembered Daisy's advice and decided to find someone who knows how to spread news. It was then that a girl named Loveshi approached and asked how to get to the Adventurers Guild. Ray considered Yuusha charming and led her to the guild. He thanked and went further. The fox on her head said they were lucky that Rain knows the way, and now they need to buy potions to earn some money. Yuusha did not take her eyes off Rat. The fox asked if something about this young man attracted her, because she rarely takes interest in others. Yuusha guessed Rat was an alchemist. The fox noted that he seemed young, probably the same age as Yuusha. Foxian said he trusted Yuusha, was ready to nap a little, and asked to be woken up if anything happened. Meanwhile, when Yuusha dozed off, she tried to follow Rat's directions but got lost. A week later at the Venture Guild, Rat wondered if the girl he helped made it there, and remembered the fox with 3 tails on her head, thinking it would be a bright talisman for his shop. Austin thought he didn't hear Amelia calling him. He apologized and explained that he was busy thinking about several ideas, and Amelia noticed a serious expression on Wreath's face and asked what was on his mind. He waved it off with a smile and said it was nothing serious, adding that he finally opened his shop, but it wasn't working as well as he expected. Amelia did not expect that. Luffy joined them and remarked that she thought his shop would be so busy that he would barely manage. Ray admitted that running a business is harder than it seems. Letty asked if he had any strategies. He said that Daisy advised making a mascot or showing a girl on a poster, but he was still thinking about it, kind of. Smiling, nodding, understanding that it really burdened him, Amelia entered the room and apologized to Rat for making him wait. She handed over some papers and asked him to handle them carefully because they were important documents for his shop. Rate said he finished his business there and was ready to leave. He wished Amelia and Lado success, and they wished success to his shop. But Rate couldn't leave the room. Suddenly someone ran in and shouted that the power was back. The room was filled with shock. People were trying to understand the commotion. Some recognized the man and noticed that he hadn't been seen for a long time. Wrath heard someone say that he was one of the few who had rank. Meanwhile, Lathe tried not to attract his attention. Sylvia asked Lathe what she was doing, but Lathe just asked her to be quiet. Sylvia noticed that she had never seen Lathe so serious, even during your mission on the volcano. Rat tried to understand what was wrong, although Luffy tried to hide the man Ariel, who ran in and noticed her. Wrath asked if Ariel was the person with rank who slammed the door. Jirio greeted Laffey, asked how much time had passed and how she was feeling. Laffey considered him an idiot to herself, but simply replied that quite some time had passed. Ariel then dropped to one knee and asked her out on a date. Trembling, Luffy reminded him that she had refused him many times and was not interested in him. Rhett was stunned to learn that this had happened many times. Ariel insisted that he admit that he had laughed many times and said she would not stop as long as she remained lonely. He promised to keep confessing until she agreed. Shocked and confused to divert him, Lafta came up with a plan, glanced at Rat and told Ariel that she was already with someone, and Ariel, stunned, asked if he heard correctly and demanded to know who it was. Rafe was just as stunned and did not know that Lafayette had someone. Safi quickly approached Rat and grabbed his hand, and informed Ariel that Rat was her partner. Silence fell in the room, and everyone fell silent, including Ariel and Rat. He stared in surprise, and Ariel skeptically told Lafayette that lying was wrong and that he had never seen her with Rate, while Lafayette forced a strange smile and explained that they could not always appear together publicly, claiming that she met Rate when Ariel was away on errands. Although Ariel could not believe her, she turned to her soul for confirmation of her efforts. Sylvia Becklaffy said that during Ariel's absence they really met Rate, and admitted that she was not sure if Laffy and Rate were really together, but Laffy was not lying. Ariel directly addressed Rate and asked if he was really dating Lafayette. Rhett hesitated a little, but when Leith firmly shook his hand, he was afraid she would break it, and nervously confirmed that they were together. Ariel was disappointed and could not come to terms with what had happened while he was away. He could not believe it, pointed at Rat, shouted his name, and warned Leith not to trust him. Still stunned, Ariel ran out of the room. As soon as Leith released Rat's hand, he fell in pain, and the crowd began whispering about what had happened. When Ariel left, Lafayette sat down with Rate and apologized for that incident with that blonde. She explained that Ariel and she had long been acquainted as adventurers of the same rank. Since their first meeting, he had repeatedly confessed his feelings to her. As Rhett saw, she always refused, but he did not stop. She added that his persistence did not weaken, so she had to lie. Having re-established contact with Rhett, she decided to deceive Ariel by saying that Rhett was her boyfriend and asked him to pretend this until Ariel gave up. He smiled and said that he had already hinted about it to Ariel. He agreed to join the plan because it was convenient for her. Laffy will apologize once again, thank, and check if he really was not against it. Wrath noted that from a male perspective Ariel was quite attractive and could make an impressive pair of adventurers with him if she wanted, and she admitted that Ariel was not a bad person, but his character did not suit her. Anger asked what they needed to do to convince others that they were a couple. Blushing, Lath shyly suggested that they go on dates. As soon as she mentioned it, he blushed too. She explained that these would be fake dates because Ariel still doubted their relationship, so they needed to be careful not to ruin everything. Wrath agreed that she was right and promised to do everything possible. Lath sincerely thanked him once again. Meanwhile, Sylvia was confident that Wrath would support Lath when she needed help. Rat set off on a journey as soon as he agreed with Lath. He still remembered the agreement to pretend to be her lover. Link in the description. When you were leaving. Continuing on the path, he suddenly noticed a girl lying motionless on the ground. Realizing she had fainted, he immediately took care of her, gently lifted her, and asked if she was okay. His voice was anxious. He held her and looked carefully at her face, and a spark of recognition flashed in his thoughts. He remembered who she was and saw with relief that her chest was rising and falling, so she was breathing. Although he was worried at first, the familiar face calmed him, and he kept checking for signs of consciousness. At that moment a fox approached, and Rat asked who it was. The fox introduced himself as a friend of Letitia and asked for help for her. Wraith was surprised that the fox could speak. The girl seemed to be trying to say something. Wraith quickly leaned closer and asked if she was okay. She was trying to ask for help, but it was difficult for her. Her stomach was growling, and she admitted that she was hungry. Wraith brought her bread. Lise explained that they had been cheated out of all their money, leaving them. They could not buy food. Rady sympathized with their situation. After she ate the bread, he asked who she was. She introduced herself as Low in the Fog. Mimi admitted that he is a ghost. Ray noted that a ghost and a human are rarely friends. Mimi said that he had been with her for a long time. He described Low as his daughter. Ray was interested that the spirit considered the person his daughter. He asked what their plans for the future were. Low explained that she is looking for an alchemist named Wright. Wraith looked surprised. He was even more surprised when she explained that she was looking for someone named Rat, and he said that it was him, asking why she was looking for him. She said she wanted to become his student. Rat was initially stunned, but then loudly expressed his surprise. He inquired what she meant, and she explained that there were rumors about him as an outstanding alchemist who could make elixirs, although she did not expect him to be so young. Rat was surprised that he was known in other countries, but found himself in a dilemma, because duties in the shop and entertainment left no time for an apprentice, and yet he could not refuse her directly, especially seeing her flushed cheeks. She said once again that she wanted to learn alchemy from him. He came up with a solution, and said he would accept her as an apprentice only under 2 conditions. He would offer Lucia a job in his workshop and in return teach her alchemy, and she could leave whenever she wanted. Whenever she wanted, by hiring Lador, he could stay in the shop and teach her. Lucia agreed to this first condition. His second request was that the spirit become the shop's talisman. The spirit, unsure of his role, learned from him that the talisman simply sits in the shop, where customers can talk to him or try to pet him, yet the spirit was proud and hesitant to communicate with people. Still remained an attractive option, because the talking fox made the shop unique. Patacia, with hope in her eyes, asked the fox again. The spirit could not resist her and agreed. Wrath inquired how long she would stay in the capital, and since she had not yet decided, he offered her a place in his shop until she resolved her housing issue. At home, Luria was shocked to see Rat with an unfamiliar girl. He forced her to be silent and explained that the girl would work there from now on. When they were climbing the stairs, Letitia asked about that woman, and he explained that she was his mentor and also lived there. He showed Letitia her room and then tested her alchemical skills using a black crystal. a device from her native land that measured an alchemist's skill through sublimation. When she touched the crystal, it shone brightly. For a skilled alchemist, purifying the crystal to 70% was impressive, but Letitia reached 90%, so Rat checked himself out of curiosity. He had never measured his own strength before. The crystal glowed very brightly. Because of this, he curled up in pain. Letitia checked him, and he was fine. He wondered why the crystal broke, and Letitia suggested that he might have overloaded its ability to be the first for her. She asked to see how he makes a magical device, which surprised Rat, who. They expected that she would ask for a potion. Yuusha explained that although she brews potions, her specialty is magical devices. When you asked what device to make, she left the choice to him. Due to the summer heat, he decided to make a cooler from a large sheet of paper, a pen, and beads. He filled the pen with white powder, explaining that this special pen could directly create material effects without needing the usual drawing of magical circles from certain materials. Draw a magical circle on the paper, place the beads on it, and completed the device at the bottom. Letitia looked unimpressed. When he asked what she wanted, she asked for a ring. Noticed that he was taking one for another girl. Luria, observing, misunderstood and panicked. She thought that Rat was in a relationship. He asked if it looked romantic, and she agreed that he was not brave enough for that. Luria then asked what they were doing, and Rat explained that he was testing Letitia's alchemy. They introduced themselves. Rat informed Luria that Letitia would live on the second floor from today. He asked Yuusha to continue, and she whispered a spell to enchant the ring. The price depends on how she uses magic, Yuusha explains. She often made magical devices with attack magic because she was also skilled in magic. Luria mistakenly thought that Yuusha came to learn magic, but Ret explained that this was not the case, and Luria was puzzled to notice that Ret created magical devices differently than she did. Yuusha interrupted and said that she wanted Ret to teach her magical circles. Ret doubted her readiness to learn, said it was a difficult matter, and suggested other lessons, but Yuusha promised to try her best. During dinner, Ret asked what spirits eat, and the fox explained that spirits, unlike weak humans, do not need food. Lowry explained that spirits feed on magical energy, and when it is depleted, they lose memories and are reborn as spirits. Yuusha said that she was from the country of Wano. Rat did not know this, but Luria had already been there and described what it looked like. Luxurious alcohol and snacks with a unique taste. She noticed that this place was special, visible even in the architecture of the buildings. In that country, politeness was highly valued, and this interested Rat about Lucia's hometown. Larry noticed that Yuusha was young and asked if she had always studied alchemy. Yuusha exclaimed. She explained her passion for alchemy, although her parents enrolled her in a school of magic. Luria asked whether Yuusha had the right to study, because schools were mostly for nobles, but Yuusha evaded the answer. Vrate changed the subject and asked how the spiritual fox became her companion, and Mimi vaguely replied that there were reasons, and simply said that Yuusha had made a contract with him as a child. Luria was surprised that Lukia made a contract with spirits that take magical energy to give power far stronger than ordinary magic. Rat smiled and said that from tomorrow, Yuusha would work in their store and become a great help, and Luria teased him by saying that he finds Yuusha cute. They encouraged the stakes to evade by offering them to make flyers. Lori and I finally agreed. Next question, 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 next question. Next question, 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 next question. Next question, next question, next question, next question. Sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry, 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 sorry. The next day their store opened, but Rat was disappointed despite the mascot, and still hoped that for the first day it was normal. The store bell rang as Lafayette and Sylvia, the first clients, or go and ask about the progress of the store's work. Wright greeted them and introduced Yuusha. Sylvia was delighted with Mimi and inquired about that tiny creature. And Red explained that he was the spirit with whom Lucius had made a contract, and this somewhat worried Sylvia. Ray I calmed Sylvia and asked her to pet Mimi because they were guests. While Sylvia was talking to Mimi, Rate asked Lathe why she had come, and Lathe, a little shy, said she wanted to talk about their pretended relationship, where Rate plays the role of her partner. Ray called Lathe through an intermediary, asked for a day with little movement, and apparently, having considered his schedule, Lathe boldly invited him on a date. Her request shocked Rat and almost stunned him. In the next chapter, the adventurer Rick dozed off while studying a small potion. His partner noticed that they were almost at the mission location and asked what he was doing, and Rick replied that he was interested in a potion from an unfamiliar shop and doubted its promised properties. His partner was surprised that he bought such a thing, especially a potion to enhance physical abilities. Rick admitted that it was strange but trusted the seller's honesty. He drank the potion to test it against a giant poisonous spider dodging its own poison using an unexpectedly large leap. He wondered if the potion was responsible for his enhanced abilities and decided to check it. He easily cut off 2 legs of the spider and confidently landed on the ground. It was clear that his speed, agility, and control had significantly increased. Impressed by the effect of the potion, he gained confidence and defeated the spider on his own without his partner's help. He easily defeated the creature, and his partner's first question was about who brewed the potion in the shop. Wright reviewed the potion supplies and displayed new items in a prominent place. Satisfied with the orderliness, he noticed that it was almost time to open the shop. When he grabbed the door handle, he told Luria that there would probably be few customers today, but they still had to work at full capacity. Luria nodded, and when he slowly opened the door, he was surprised to see a large crowd impatiently waiting for the shop to open. Rat could not believe it and did not understand what was happening, thinking it was a dream that would disappear when the door fully opened. But when he opened it, it was open. Overloaded by the flow of customers. They bought so many goods that the shelves were empty even before the shop closed. In the empty shop, Rat and Lo, catching their breath, tried to comprehend the sudden influx of customers. A buyer approached and asked if everything was sold out. Rafe saw that a large group had just bought out the goods and asked her if she knew why so many people had come. The one, surprised that he did not know this, explained that rumors had spread in a few days about a shop where amazing potions and magical devices were sold, and things with the fire sign were especially trusted. Did Rafe grasp this revelation, in which he was asked if he took orders? He confirmed that he did, took her order, and thanked her. Rat did not expect that the logo he invented would so greatly increase the store's popularity. He felt uplifted. To take advantage of the moment, he decided to make more products while they still had enough materials. After the shop closed, Lucia and Mimi were noticeably exhausted. Rate praised their efforts and warned that tomorrow might be no less intense. Although they looked tired from work, Lucia, firmly devoted to her duty, pushed them forward. So that she reluctantly agreed to do everything possible. That evening Rat had a date with Lafayette, arranged so that he would court Ariel, and it worried him, though he pretended to be her boyfriend. Lafayette came to the meeting place, and Rate blushed upon seeing her. She apologized for any delay because her shyness was similar to his. Impressed by her appearance, Rhett asked if she had chosen the clothes herself, and Lefty credited Sylvia. Meanwhile, Ariel watched them from afar as they strolled, and Rit wondered what couples usually do on dates. Lafay commented on the success of his shop, and she was surprised. She noticed he was not in the mood. They noticed that the adventurers were chatting about a potion marked with flame and about a fox with 3 tails. Ray realized that this matched what a client had said earlier, confirming that his shop was becoming known by word of mouth, as Daisy had advised when he asked her for advice. Lucia and Mimi also contributed to the shop's popularity, charming customers of all ages and genders, and Wright hoped this success would continue. She giggled and said she didn't believe the enthusiasm would fade, because his goods were exceptionally high quality. Pleasantly touched but embarrassed, Ray thanked her and quietly hoped it would last. Today Wrath left the shop and was no longer under anyone's supervision. Suddenly they heard a child crying loudly. Ray instinctively wanted to help, but Laffy held him back. In a moment Ariel appeared, handed the child a flower, and said the crying. It did not suit her sweet face. Despite his good deed, the child remained upset and continued to cry. Wrath became interested in the strange attire of the man and thought that he was probably chasing them. The guards came and took the antenna. They wanted to escape while there was a chance. Wrath hesitated, noticing that the man did not want to give her up. She said she had a plan. She described the annual festival in New York, the capital showing its impressive parade and unique shops that appeared. She explained that Sylvia had been bothering her to go to the festival together. Since Ariel would probably be watching them, appearing together at the festival could convince him that they were a couple, and Wrath agreed, saying that there are often dates at festivals, and he did not mind. If Lathe also did not mind the plan, they did just that. Decided to do it. After a short pause, Ray realized that Ariel had been taken away, so there was no point in continuing their date, and they ended it. A week later, Yuusha asked Rat if he was really going to the festival. Festival? He replied that it was already noon, so there should be fewer people. Yuusha was worried about going alone, but Ray calmed her down and praised her confidence. During their last date, Rat hesitated to take the initiative, and feeling awkward about it, he decided to make this festival successful. To achieve this, he decided to ask Daisy for help. Ray apologized for coming without warning and explained that he urgently needed Daisy's help. But then he noticed Sylvia and, stammering, asked why she was here. Sella smiled and asked what he thought she was doing. Daisy explained that Sylvia had asked her to help with something unclear. Ray proposed a plan. Sylvia reminded him of his promise to go to the festival with his sister, but noted that he did not know the festival in the capital, and this might prevent him from confidently leading and creating a good mood. Sylvia suggested intervening and helping him breathe together with his companion, noticing his anxiety. She asked if he could manage on his own, not guessing that this was exactly why he came to Daisy. Daisy understood the request, or was embarrassed about why she was chosen. Sylvia explained that Ray knew few people he could turn to. Daisy asked if he was dating the S-rank adventurer, and Reith explained that he was only pretending to date her to help her avoid an unwanted suitor. Daisy looked puzzled. Sylvia suggested turning to Amelia if Daisy couldn't help. Ruth firmly opposed involving Amelia because she knew how she would react. Daisy didn't see a problem with Amelia because she was an adult, but Rafe begged her to help. She began to wonder why he so desperately needed her help. He insisted that it was extremely important to him. After his persistent requests, Daisy agreed to help. Sylvia gladly suggested starting preparations for the festival. But Daisy was still working, so they postponed. The festival began 300 years ago when the country was founded to bring prosperity to the kingdom. The Royal Dragon Festival was created in honor of the Crystal Dragon. Over time it grew, and now the entire capital participates in the celebration. Everyone in the capital knows this festival and eagerly awaits it every summer. Wright was impressed by the grandeur of the event. Lathe asked if he liked the first Royal Dragon Festival, and he replied that everything he had seen was incredible, and he understood why it was so popular. When he looked at Lathe and her impressive outfit, he couldn't hold back and loudly praised her. Fortunately, Lafayette did not hear him, as had already been explained. He suspected that Ariel was still watching them. Wright looked around for others, but did not see them because Sylvia and the girls were hiding. Nicola was glad to be next to Daisy and Sylvia, and Daisy already looked irritated. Luria noticed that Wright was not very experienced with women, so it was hard for him to behave like a real guy. Then she saw Ariel and asked if he was okay. So Eshard heard that there was no need to worry about him, and note that Wright bought something for Leify. He bought her a caramel apple, and when their hands touched, both blushed and jumped back. Laurie and Sylvia were happy watching Rafe and Lake communicate. Meanwhile, Niccolo tried to invite Daisy on a date. But Daisy firmly refused her. Nicola found Daisy's determination cute, and Daisy just wanted her to go away. Sylvia and Luria were looking for ways to help Rake and Laugh become closer. A group of men approached them and started to flirt. Sylvia gave them a scary look, and they trembled. And the man explained that they were just looking for fun. They are in the capital for the first time, so Laura intervened, said she also was disoriented, and advised the men to ask someone else, but they insisted, suggesting to take a walk together. Someone grabbed Daisy by the shoulder and said they could walk, but a threatening voice ordered him to let her go, instantly freezing his hand. While the girls defended Daisy, Sylvia coldly looked at the men. They insisted they only wanted fun, but Sylvia became serious and told them to leave. Sylvia was focused on helping her sister in Wrath and had no time to deal with random strangers. She thought to cause an accident to freeze. Ask your legs to wait for a small favor. Returning to the festival, Wrath and Lafay were eating street meat. Wrath noticed shops from different corners, and Lafay suggested buying unique creatures as souvenirs. He remembered that Lucien said she would be at the festival and probably tasting food at your tent. Hopefully Luria Eames was just at home drinking. Suddenly, men appeared who were bothering Sylvia and Laura and started to harass her. They laugh. Wrath did not think they were flirting because they looked scared and kept looking back. Lathe categorically refused to go with them and looked at them with the same fierce gaze as Sylvia. They got scared and ran away. And the laughter remained, puzzled after the meeting. Sylvia saw that her plan had failed, and she fell into despair. Loria, unaware of the conspiracy, praises Lucky's courage. Sylvia hoped that the situation would allow Rat to protect Lucky from the bandits. Lathe was too strong. Sylvia stood up resolutely and decided to focus directly on Riita so that her sister would be happy. Sylvia told Luria that they needed to bring Rat and Luffy closer through physical contact. Luria was interested in the plan. Sylvia was going to use wind magic to push Wraith towards Laphasupli. Having a plan, they combined forces to create a gust of wind that pushed Rat closer to Lafay. Wraith stumbled, his face hit Lucky's chest. He panicked and quickly apologized. Sylvia and Laura were happy because it was their goal. Lafay and Ray noticed the game stand and approached to look. Wraith nervously played the ring toss game. He thought he would set up a nest. The ring landed on the stick at the last moment. Wraith tried it again and succeeded. A crowd gathered around him, but he was confused and did not understand how he won. Sylvia and Luria secretly helped him. Noticing that the crowd was growing, Lurie said that they might have overdone it a bit. Sylvia agreed that his sister was already getting ready for work and suggested luring him because it seemed like their only option. They suggested that they enjoy the festival themselves, and Wraith said he would find a place to sit and watch the fireworks after the game. Suddenly, Wraith and Wraith were able to enjoy the festival, and Wraith said he would find a place to sit and watch the fireworks after the game. Suddenly, Wraith and Wraith were able to enjoy the festival, and Wraith said he would find a place to sit and watch the fireworks after the game. Suddenly, Wraith and Wraith were able to enjoy the festival, and Wraith said he would find a place to sit and watch the fireworks after the game. Suddenly, Wraith and Wraith were able to enjoy the festival, and Wraith said he would find a place to sit and watch the fireworks after the game. He noticed that a fight was approaching and he wanted to avoid it and said he would have a few drinks, but it was already too late to run away. Amelia smiled and asked where Sylvia was, thinking they were alone at the festival. Latte tried to explain the situation with Ariel. Amelia acknowledged it and noted that they seemed very close, adding that the festival is a popular place for couples. While she was speaking, Wrath noticed the fog appearing and looked at his hand. Ritz's ring for magic neutralization suddenly cracked, which showed that the thought was magical. Amelia Caleb, frightening them both. Wrath checked her and confirmed that she was fine, just sleeping, and Lathe felt relieved but remained confused by the situation. Wright suggested that the fog might contain magic that causes sleep. Wright was unharmed thanks to the ring, and when he asked Lathe how she felt, she said she was fine. She suggested that the effect of the fog varies for different people and advised acting while it was still possible to move. The fog covered a large area, indicating a powerful mage. Rafe wondered how many people in the capital were still awake. Lathe proposed looking for others who were still conscious. Not knowing when the fog would clear, they decided to check other places. The fog was thickening, and they could encounter someone as strong or stronger than the mentor. Action was necessary. Rafe preferred teasing Amelia over dealing with this crisis. As they walked, everyone else was asleep. Lathe felt gifts and called out, discovering. Ariels, who greeted them, laughed, asked if he knew anything, and he admitted that he did not know. Assuming that those who were still awake, like him and Lafay, had a high resistance to magic, as evidenced by their status as ranked adventurers. Luria and Sylvia hid Daisy and Nicola in a safe place and began searching for Rat. Lafay tried to track his magic, but found that her own magic was blocked. Sylvia struggled to sense her sister's magic, which was supposed to lure him, because two other sources of magic interfered. Sylvia suspected that the other source was Ariel, a ranked adventurer they were trying to lure. Sims recalled Ariel as an adventurer in love with Lafay. When asked, Sylvia confirmed that her magic worked in the fog. Luria decided to keep flying while her magic was active. After some time, they found Wright and the others. Rafe was stunned to see them appear in the air and jokingly suggested that they were drunk. A voice interrupted them, and they prepared to attack. But it was Mamie who mocked their weakness. A good question is why she was there and where Yuusha was. Mimi explained that Yuusha had set the fire. Rat was confused when Nini mentioned Luria, but he explained that it was not the usual Yuusha. He asked if the quiet, expressionless Yuusha got annoyed by things. Mimi explained that the Yuusha he knew was a light Luri. But this spell was cast by Dark Luria, a half-human, half-vampire. Vampires are a magical race from over 1,000 years ago, known as Lords of the Night for blood-sucking and extraordinary physical abilities, but due to difficulties with reproduction, they declined and faded into history. Many noticed that Yuusha had not yet fully mastered her powers, and when she had little blood or was drunk, her behavior changed and she lost control. Mimi explained that Yuusha is now in dark vampire mode and is using her power to cover the capital with fog. Rate asked when this mode would end, and Mimi said it could last from half a day to more than a day. Yuusha, as a hybrid, was significantly stronger than ordinary people, and since she was a spirit with whom Mimi had made a contract, Mimi could not intervene to stop her. Rate thought about why she initially lost control and explained that she had only drunk a little alcohol, and Nimi had encouraged her to drink. Rate asked if Luria had any thoughts, and she replied that no strategy was needed. They just needed to stop Yuusha, so they expressed concern about possible injuries, but Ariel intervened and calmed them. He will deal with it. Ariel slyly winked and said that his potion would make everything more effective. When everyone agreed, Mimi asked them to follow her and ran off. Lathe reached out to Wrath, saying that flying would be faster, while Sathya grabbed Lathe. After a stormy trip, they landed. Rat, not used to such a flight, felt nauseous and saw his whole life flash before his eyes, and above him hovered a spotted dark Yuusha. She looked delighted, commenting on the group below, which looked appetizing. Her smile convinced Rat that this was not the usual Yuusha, but he thought he could talk to her, and Mimi warned them to be cautious because Yuusha would not hold back. Lucy dismissed the Nide to be careful. Luria politely asked Yuusha to remove the fog magic and scolded her for bad behavior and for causing trouble to the capital. Luria's tone changed. She refused and even insulted her by calling her old, which irritated the woman. Rat stopped and asked Yuusha what her purpose was in causing all this chaos. Yuusha replied that she had no specific game, she just wanted to have fun after a long period of isolation. She immediately appeared in front of Rat. She called him to join, and Rat, impressed by her speed, froze as she prepared to strike. Luria kicked Yuusha, but she deftly dodged, laughed, and said that such a move would not catch her. But looking back cost her dearly. She released sharp ice and trapped her. Still stunned, Reth did not know if she had teleported. He suddenly understood something and urgently ordered them to quickly tie her up. But Lucius killed and disappeared. She said their magic was too weak to affect her and began circling above them in the air. Reth realized she was moving, turning into mist, and Sylvia tried to catch her with a chain. But Lucius easily slipped away. Then Lucien noticed that Sylvia was not going to hit her and doubted her true intentions. Lucia found herself surrounded by numerous chains, and therefore, it still needs to be clarified whether she was not trying to hit her, but from the very beginning aimed to lure her into a chain sphere. Lucia realized that the chains were meant to restrict her movements, creating a sphere so she could not escape. She admitted that she underestimated Sylvia's cleverness, but Lucius's power burned all the chains, and she was freed. Then Laffy collided with her, but on contact. Lucid turned her hand into mist, causing Lathe to fall. When Laffier apologized for letting down, Rate wondered how she could jump like that in a yukata. Lucky warned him that they might not be able to stop her without harming her. Rat rejected this idea and insisted on another solution, but Luria reminded that Lucio was the source of the mist and easily resisted them, so if they did not act decisively, the situation could worsen. They launched a coordinated attack, and Lucia responded as the fight intensified. Vrate asked Minnie for advice, and Minnie explained that vampires are vulnerable to sunlight, crosses, running water, fire, and holy water. Sunlight could be used at night, and Luria's group was already using water and fire. But Lucia was immune to enchanted elements, so they needed natural sources, which led to holy water was the best option for them. Rate carried one bottle, hoping it would stop her if they hit her with it. At that moment, Lucia appeared behind him and snatched the bottle. Laffy kicked her and checked if he was okay. Wright explained that Lucia took holy water. Lucy started teasing and insulting Wright, laughing. Rhett flinched but did not respond to her sharp remarks. He told the girls that he was not angry, but instead decided to come up with a cruel plan to make her cry. The girls were worried about his idea, but he assured them that it would not harm her, although he would need the help of all three. Luria was against the plan if it meant doing something terrible, but Wreath insisted that it was harmless. Sylvia asked how they could help, and he called them closer and quietly whispered the plan while Lucia, embarrassed, was washing. He ordered to lure her to an open space near Southgate, if possible not letting her escape. It was not easy. Raid insisted that they finish the plan, whispering that he would take care of the rest himself. Ariel suddenly attacked, but Lucia easily dodged. Lucian mocked her, calling her old, and this made her even angrier. Approximately, Luria created several water spheres and shot them at Lucia when Lucia was distracted by water balloons, and chains of Sylvia appeared before her face. Sylvia said to dodge, otherwise Lucia risks injury and damage to her beauty. Lucia realized they were holding back. But now enjoy the challenge, push them to give all their strength while avoiding them. They led her to the area that Rat mentioned, wherever that was. Found and froze, but Lucian noticed their intent and stopped. Ray ordered everyone to follow his instructions precisely and took responsibility for the outcome. Lucia does not know whom to approach first, Luria or Sylvia. But surprisingly, Wrath attacked first. Lucia was confused because Ray could neither fight nor use magic. She kept her distance, doubting his ability. Rhett used her compression power to break the fountain. Realizing the danger, Lucia fled. But Lathe chased after her. Laughter almost seized her. Lucia turned into the fog, and Luria and Sylvia appeared behind her. Wrath ordered Luria to build walls to trap Lucia in this area, and he did not care how she would do it. Luria, skilled in magic, willingly took on the task. Rat did not want to push Lucia into the fountain, but wanted to bring the fountain closer to her. He used the power of compression again, which caused the fountain to burst. The explosion caused a brief rain, and Lucia, falling from the sky, began to lose consciousness. Caught her before she fell to the ground. Wraith checked their safety and shockingly noticed that Lucia's laughter was soaked. Lathe asked why he was staring. He muttered that they were nearby and was scolded for staring at them. Wraith noticed that Luria and Sylvia remained dry because Luria dried them with her wind magic. Lucia, coming to her senses, said that Wraith had truly surpassed her. She smiled after the defeat. She found it amusing that someone without magic had defeated her. Wraith was glad that he was able to surprise her. Thinking it over, Wraith noticed that Lurius's dark taunts had caused them many problems. After that, it was Lucia's turn to have problems. Rat and Luria chased after her. Rat slapped her several times. Williams, playing the role of Lucia, promised never to repeat her action again. Later, Luria said that Rat might have gone too far. That's behind them, so they shouldn't dwell on it. Wraith asked Lucia how much she remembered. It was nice to learn that she remembered everything. She sincerely apologized. And it seemed she was truly repentant. Mimi praised everyone, but said she expected them to finish sooner because there were 4 of them against 1. Wraith was getting used to her teasing. Lucia was herself again, and when the fog began to clear, people started to cry. To Wrath, it seemed like a dream when he was falling asleep. The aviation inspection to check the heat ensured safety for everyone. They thanked him. And he said he was finding out whether Wrath and Lathe were meeting. Rat forgot that their mission came from him. He asked Ariel about his conclusions and learned that he and Lafayette were indeed a couple. Both pretended not to know about the real investigation, and although Ray was a skeptic, he understood that it had achieved its goal. Suddenly, Ariel added that if Wraith's love for Laffy faded, he would intervene to declare his own. By that time, he insisted that Wrath take care of Laffy and make her happy, and then disappeared. A week later, Wrath looked depressed. Leith asked how long he would stay like that. Mimi was just as gloomy, and Seth, who was also nearby, told him to move on. Destruction of fountains, damaged roads, magical malfunctions throughout the city, festival disruptions, and use of hostile magic. These were serious crimes that usually led to imprisonment. Raid understood but thought it was too expensive. Lucia, upset, said they had no money. Sylvia offered to help cheer them up. He offered to pay for the alcohol, but Rat refused, saying it was a matter between him and Lucia. Having no other choice, he decided to cover the expenses. Lucia objected, but he reminded her that after she ran out of money, she had no grounds to argue. Seeing her expression, he explained that it would not be free. She would have to work hard in his workshop to repay the debt. She agreed and thanked him. He he noted that everything could have been different if she had been honest. She apologized and explained about the non-human races. As a vampire, she faced discrimination, was refused service or attacked, so she remained silent. Rei III assured her that people in the capital were kind. He told Lathe that alchemists help those who fall behind on the roads and female adventurers with ranks. Lathe agreed and noted that prejudice against non-human women is weakening because there are more of them among adventurers. She again welcomed Yuusha to the capital. The real problem was what they would do next, since earning enough from just the shop would be difficult. Set handed the paper to Rate, asking what he was thinking about. It was an application for a temporary teaching position at the Royal Academy of Magic. Rady Villa headed the school. 7. Set was shocked. Rat knew him and was interested in his connections. Rafe explained that it was not intentional. Set inquired about the alchemy teacher position. The pay was good, and temporary teachers could help so that Rafe could run his shop. His sister Alicia studied at Academy No. 2, so Ray thought he could manage with 2 familiar faces. Still, he doubted himself because he had no teaching experience and could not imagine how to perform in front of a class. Mimi encouraged him, but Ray felt that she did not understand his hesitations. Lara fully believed in him. Rate was afraid that the students would not respect him because they were close in age. Sylvia said that she would like his class, and to consider this work, planning to seek help from Seth's sister if necessary. Seth laughed, noticing that she was younger than him. Reed easily kept himself under control, although he was younger than Seth, who was less balanced. Seth went to prepare after teasing Reed jokingly. They continued working in the workshop, and after a few months, Reed and Seth arrived at the Royal Academy for the Reeds to meet the Wells family. At the door, Rat hesitated because he was not sure whether to meet the Wells, but Seth insisted because Rat had to work there. They knocked and entered Wells's room, where Will politely greeted Reed, and they both forced a smile. Will noted that since their last meeting, he had heard a lot about Rat. Then Will asked why Reed chose their academy. Seeing Rat's tense expression, Will thought he had crossed a line and apologized. Rat wondered if Will knew about the fountain he had destroyed. Will assured him that regardless of the reasons, they were glad to have an alchemist of such a level. He asked if Rate had reviewed the documents. Rate confirmed that he had seen the documents that were given to him earlier. As agreed, he would work as a teacher's assistant in the academy's classes. For now, the employment details were postponed. They expected him to follow the head teacher's instructions until the exam. If he noticed something during the lessons, he could have suggested it. Rat could freely share his thoughts as he wished. He inquired if he would help and found out that the teacher was Helga. Set got nervous at the mention of the name and Will recalled that Helga taught Set at the academy. Wrath asked about health as a character trait. Will called him an excellent teacher, but Rate wanted to know more than just about teaching skills and clarified that he wanted to learn about Helga as a person. Obviously, he had quarreled with Will. Will signed the documents and suggested meeting with Helvet to see for himself, as he was sure that Helga would have specific instructions for the class. Rhett, surprised, took it as a joke from Will. Will said he was counting on working together and let them go. In the hall, Rat exhaled heavily and promised to avoid Will's for years. Set considered it an exaggeration but agreed. Reed Will's constant smile was annoying, and I promised to mention it next time. Rafe later thought about Helga's character. Set said that Helga was not bad but had difficulties. Describe it so that Riethead understands during the meeting. Set pushed him towards Helga's room. Rat froze when he entered the large room with books, which was much bigger than his workshop. He realized that to handle everything, he needed to be more organized than he thought. When Set asked whom he imagined Helga as messy as Luria. He taught her only what he knew well. Set found it strange that he was not in his room, as he was always there when Set was his student. Rafe began to examine the room, thinking it was empty. Set suggested waiting a bit. Rate noticed something on the box that at first looked like a stone. As if it were a magical jewel, he wanted to look at it closer. But a rough voice demanded to know who was there, and a bearded old man appeared, who declared that this was his research room and forbade them to act freely. Set greeted Helva, who he recognized him. Set was happy and held the memory. He was recognized as an especially gifted student. Helga was not at all as Wraith had imagined, so he was embarrassed by Seth's earlier reaction. Suddenly Helga began pacing back and forth, and Rat was watching him. He said that Rat seemed very young when he had heard about him and said he knew his name. Helga apparently had a personal interest in Rat. When he arrived in the capital from an unknown place, Rat had already earned a reputation. Helga considered him skilled for his age. He made elixirs and even saved travelers with them. These were his most famous achievements. It was also said that he had a strong connection to dreams. Wraith was surprised that so much about him had become common knowledge. As soon as he began to see this in a positive light, Helga warned that she would not acknowledge the abilities of the Wraiths until she saw them herself, and would not let Rat become too confident. Rat noticed Helga's sternness and looked at Seth, who are falsely smiling. Seeing Wraith standing there, Helga scolded him again for lagging behind and ordered him to come over. Following behind, Rat wondered if he could work there. He whispered to Seth and asked why they had to move just to discuss work. He was worried that he had done something wrong because he thought Helga was angry because they entered his room without invitation. Seth assured him that it was not a problem because, knowing Helga's character, he guessed that what bothered her was that Rafe was the same age as the students. Anger was shocked because he could not change his age. Seth smiled and said that Helga was not a bad person, so Radu should not worry too much. Helga said that they had arrived. Kit asked where they had been, and it resembled a training ground. Helga said that he would check Wraith there. Wraith was surprised. Seth avoided eye contact without warning Wraith about the test. Wraith promised to remember this. He waited for Helga's instructions. Helga ordered Wraith to build a golem. Hollins were dolls with a magical crystal inside that moved by themselves using magical energy. Rhett did not understand why he was being tested on this, because usually tests concern potion brewing, weapon enhancement, or creating magical devices. He wondered what Helga was thinking. Helga said that Galu did not need to be big, only to move well. Helga handed him a small magical stone. Rate was nervous because he had never created a golem before. He knew the theory, but he was still nervous and sweating. Helga, stay with us, and asked if he was going to do it. To the training ground. Rat thought that admitting he had never made a lead golem would lead to instant failure. He decided to try. Rat took a deep breath and focused on creating the golem. Details and imagination were key. The idea of the final result was an important part of alchemy, especially when creating golems. The magical stone would provide energy, but if the body was made poorly, the golem's movements would suffer. In the worst case, the golem could go out of control, and he really wanted to avoid that. He adjusted the magic stone and began the procedure. Set looked worried when Rafe started the transfer. In the formation phase, Helga was captivated by the beauty of his work. Suddenly, Rat created a wolf golem. Helga examined the rubber product, noting its realistic appearance and impressive craftsmanship. In all his years of teaching alchemy, he had never encountered a home of such caliber. It took many attempts to bring such a creation to perfection. Wrath noted that he hoped it was not too bad for a first attempt. Seeing Hell's stunned expression, he feared he was wrong. Seth was surprised that Wrath managed it on the first try, but Hell remained skeptical. They claimed that even a genius could not create what Wrath had just made in a lifetime. An ordinary person could not achieve such a level of skill, no matter how hard they tried, but he had to believe it was Wrath's first attempt. Wrath got nervous and confused, not knowing what to answer, and apologized. In Helga's room, they sat silently because she looked depressed. Discussing how he did on the test, Wrath quietly asked what they should do next. Seth reproached him for not seeing his talent, and suddenly Helga said she had no complaints about his work. For now, he planned to review the lesson material. Their first lesson was about purpose and structure. He explained the process. They explained the steps, practiced them, and then used epaulets for sword and magic training. Helga announced that Rafe would assist with lesson preparation and answer students' questions. Wright also conducted demonstrations alongside other duties. Understanding his role, he asked if he could leave due to health reasons and mentioned another task. Since Rat said he was making a golem for the first time, it gave him something to do, and they advised him to practice with it before classes started. If he had any doubts, it was a stone phantom that had interested him earlier. He asked if it was a magic stone and held it. This confirmed. Rate thanked and left. In her room, Helga watched them leaving the academy and wondered why he gave Ratu an item that did not react, although he himself could not process it. He realized that emotions had clouded his judgment about his age. He hoped that Rat would be able to achieve what he himself wanted very much. At home, Rat thought about what goal to create using the magic stone. Sylvia was confident that his creation would be impressive. Rate noted that Helga did not give instructions regarding the form or materials of the golem, so the choice was difficult. He asked Luri's opinion, and she suggested making something interesting, but she did not specify the details. Inspired, Rate decided to create something exciting for the students. Late proposed a task that was not suitable for sword or magic training and reminded to add elements that counter these skills. He supported her idea, and she enthusiastically suggested choosing between a humanoid and a monstrous form. Rat had an idea and set a clear goal for himself. When Laddie asked if he felt uneasy, he told about his plan to make the goal transformational. Even Luria was embarrassed and was not sure if such a thing was possible. Luria admitted that she had never created a golem that transforms, but thought Rat could handle it, and he confessed that he was not sure how to do it. Luria wanted to leave, but he stopped her and said she had nowhere to go. Lathe asked if he had a real plan to create it. She understood racial abilities, but creating something completely new would be a challenge even for him. He said he understood nothing, but had a plan. Since it was an experiment, they could freely try any ideas. The creation needed a strong material as a mannequin for practice, which easily changed shape and allowed magical energy to pass through it so it could move. They decided to use nitrile, which Rat had previously worked with in Sylvia's projects. To use this excitation for the golem, they would probably have to carefully adjust it. Rafe pulled out a magic stone and immediately created a humanoid golem. A life that could be mistaken for the life of a real person. Lathe became interested in the gong. Rat asked her to lightly hit him so as not to cause damage. Luffy swung with one hand. But the golem deflected her blade. She tried again and managed to cut it. Then Rate asked Sylvia to check it with a light magical strike. Sylvia's usual spell did not harm the golem, although she restrained herself. The golem, which could withstand attacks from high-ranking adventurers such as Lathe and Sylvia, was extraordinary, especially for ordinary training. Sylvia was impressed by Rate's creation. Rat adjusted it, and the target changed by itself, and even Luria found it amazing. Soon the human golem turned into a wolf one, and Rate, proud of his work, began playfully chasing it. Sylvia and Luria tried to understand his methods. Luria asked if Rafe planned to take the target to the academy. He wondered if it was a problem, but Luria doubted he could bring it there. Golan's power came from the magical gem inside him. When the gem's energy was depleted, Golan stopped until he was recharged. Suddenly the wolf began to weaken. Its energy was exhausted, so Rafe asked Helva to recharge him with her magic before they set off to the academy. Gloria agreed, but noted that he would need to be regularly recharged, and she would not always be able to come to the academy, so most likely the target would have to be kept here. Rate was clearly disappointed, so they tried to cheer him up, but he paid no attention. He said he just had to accept that his time at Liquid Niquin was over. On his first day at the academy, Rate got lost when Pensive, the attractive one, noticed him and wanted to know who he was. Rat went everywhere but did not find the destination, and the students began to suspect him, wondering what to do next. Alicia approached and asked what he was doing. He explained that he started working there today. She knew and asked where he was going. He said he was looking for help for his workshop, according to the staff list. Wrath noticed that she resembled Seth. He pointed out the same hair color, eye placement, and facial features. She looked at him intently and asked what he thought about her brother. Rhett called Seth a reliable friend who always helped him. Elisha found his answer strange and turned away, secretly rejoicing. Unlike others who tried to use her brother, Rat was sincere. She led him to Helga's workshop, and before leaving said she was looking forward to their lessons. Kit knocked and entered. He was very angry because Rat was late on his first day. He apologized and explained that he got lost. Helga said their lessons start today, beginning with theory, not practice, to gradually introduce him. He missed most of the lessons, so he didn't have to strain too much. Rate was determined to give his all when practical lessons began. It helped. Who asked about the magic stone that she gave him. Rat explained that he used it to create an energy-efficient golem, which he considered neither a clear success nor a failure. Helga was surprised that he managed to create a meta from that precious stone. Thinking about his previous failed attempts, Rat was impressed by what he heard but decided to focus. Deal with it later. He said he would introduce himself soon. They left the workshop for Rate's first lesson, where he wanted to make a strong impression as a teaching assistant. Although he is not here, 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 although he is not here. Although he is not here, 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 although he is not here. Although he is not here, 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 although he is not here. Although he is not here, 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 sorry, 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 sorry. Sorry, 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 sorry. Under the gaze of the students, Rat was nervous, wanted to run away, but could not, so he listened to Helga to calm down. But he could not understand her words, and when he finally entered, Helga introduced him as a temporary teacher, looking at him expectantly for a response. Some Rate was trembling and sweating. Helga pushed Rate again to get him out of this state. He introduced himself and promised to diligently share knowledge while he was there. A female student raised her hand. She asked if he was the suspicious man seen that morning, because she saw him with Alicia and wanted to know what their connection was. Rate was embarrassed, explained that he walked around to remember the faces of new students, apologized, and added that Alicia was just an acquaintance. This confused the class even more because he had just claimed to be connected to one of the 4 great noble families. Helga intervened and explained that Rate had simply gotten lost, and his uncertain behavior might have seemed suspicious. She noticed that his habits were familiar to her, then turned her attention back to the lesson. From the first day, Rate was nicknamed the temporary teacher who got lost, and they began to associate him with a noble family. In the lesson, Helvet explained that the magical gem is crucial in creating the golem. It is the source of energy and the heart of its operation, and if the gem breaks or loses energy, the golem will stop working. Wright felt relieved because he had no urgent tasks, but understood that he had acquired this knowledge during practical work with mentor Luria and now saw it in formal teaching. Then Kelva led the class to the training ground for an early workout before the exciting race. Who saw a chance to fix his awkward acquaintance by helping. That year he told the students to turn to Rat with questions, but they doubted his skills because of a previous incident when he got lost. Rat convinced himself that good answers would improve their opinion of him, but the students seemed capable of building gons on their own, so he was left without work. Believing that their views would not change, he began to look for students who might need help. Ratham noticed a girl who looked puzzled. Offered help, but she refused. He turned to others, but they either refused or advised him to turn to Helga. Realizing that they were avoiding him, Rate and Alicia sighed together. He asked what had happened, and she said that classmates constantly questioned her about their relationship. Rath expressed regret and apologized, but Alicia calmed him down, said it was not his fault, and advised him not to dwell on it. However, Rat said that people were avoiding him, so he did not know how to act. Alicia noted that they could not show him as a suspicious person, and asked why they doubted his abilities. Rafe said that he had not yet shown them what he was capable of, and Alicia invited him to join her at the next practical lesson. Interested in her intentions, Rat asked why, but she waved it off and left. She thought about her motives throughout the lesson. After he visited Daisy's shop, Daisy noticed that he thought he was too busy to drop by, but Rat said he had free time and decided to visit. Daisy asked if he could leave the shop. Rat explained that the shop was run by Lucia, and Daisy joked that she wanted to know what he had messed up again. Irritated, Rate asked her not to make comments that confused him. Then Daisy asked if he was mass-producing elixirs. Rat said that he recently took a temporary teaching job at the Academy of Magic, but the students spread rumors that he got lost and was late on the first day. Daisy directly asked if he was stupid. Desperate, Wrath asked for advice on how to regain his reputation, but Daisy did not understand why he turned to her specifically. Ruth noted that if he asked Luria for help, she would hold it against him, and Daisy would immediately tell the truth. She suggested that he prove his worth as an alchemist to restore his reputation. Rate realized that he would have to wait until the next practical lesson to do this. Rate, rather than ask Daisy how she was doing, noticing. Lately he had not helped in her shop and had not taught her alchemy. She suggested showing him her progress because it was faster that way. They went into the room where Daisy was using Lamo while When they first met, we brewed a mediocre potion, and Rat wanted to find out how she had improved since then. When Daisy began preparing the potion, he noticed that her movements became much smoother. When she finished, Reith examined the potion and was impressed because it showed her hard work. It was of high quality. He praised Daisy and noted that the way she runs the shop herself and improved her skills so quickly in less than a year was impressive. Blushing, Daisy said that someday she might surpass him, and Rate eagerly awaited that. Returning to his shop, he found Luria sitting, worried. When asked, Luria explained that her maniflo had fallen off. Rate asked if something had happened, and she replied that there were no negative consequences yet, but it felt like a small bone was stuck in her throat. He became concerned and asked her to investigate it further. Luria noted that the problem was subtle, almost imperceptible to most mages, and therefore difficult to study. Wraith suggested not paying attention to it for now if it caused no harm. Luria agreed and asked about his day at school. Only his expression showed that things had gone wrong. Lafayette and Sylvia came and were shocked to see him so depressed. Luria explained that she had just asked about school, and he got angry. Blecky insisted on details, and Wraith admitted that the students were avoiding him. He explained that after several incidents, they stopped trusting him, and he did not know what he had done wrong. Irritated, he impulsively decided to resign. As an assistant, he was only supposed to support Helga, and even in the worst case that would have been enough, so he decided not to think too much and just agree. Sylvia assured him that everything would be fine with him. She noted that his mana flow had been strange lately. Wrath noticed that it did not cause problems, so there was no need to worry. He asked Lathe how she was feeling, and she said that thanks to him Ariel had calmed down, so it had become quite peaceful. He was pleased to hear that. He smiled and offered to be contacted if help was needed. He thanked her and said he would come to her when the time came. During dinner on the second day of practical classes, Ruth noticed that the students were still ignoring him. He could not help but admire how ingeniously they used weapons. He wondered if their views were simply different from his, and for now headed to Alicia. He saw that she was looking at the magic stone in her hands, and seeing that the other students were already crafting their golems, asked Alicia what was wrong, thinking she was falling behind. She insisted that she was not lazy. Handing him the magic stone, she said it was necessary to test its abilities. Taking a deep breath, she loudly announced that Wraith would conduct the demonstration. The students eagerly awaited what would happen, although they doubted the evaluation skills. Wraith saw this as a chance to convince them and told Alicia to trust him. He asked her to step aside because he needed space to examine it. He heard their critical remarks about him in just a few seconds. Wraithcrafted impresses Cat Golem and amazes everyone. Golem looked almost alive. Its fur was as realistic as that of living animals. The students began to doubt whether their teacher had always been so skilled. Alicia was also impressed. She had heard from her brother about his extraordinary talents, but had no idea they were so impressive. The golem was so lifelike that it ceased to be just a puppet, as if life itself was being created. Usually gallons hardly moved, and this helped them be sturdy. But making a golem with a complex structure that would allow movement was something only a rare master could do. Even the smallest flaw in the golem's body could lead to its destruction during strong movement. Therefore, the Wraith's golem was far beyond the reach of an ordinary alchemist. He was surprised by the lack of the expected reaction because he thought he had done quite well. He asked Alicia if his demonstration went well, and she admitted that she might have underestimated him because she now better understood her brother's point of view. Confused, Rat asked her to explain, but even when she explained again, he still remained puzzled, which shocked her even more. Race. She did not pay much attention to his legs, and this made her admire her brother even more. Later, a student with a flushed face approached Rat. She confused him. Stammering, she explained her purpose. His body broke and she did not know how to fix it. Rat, feeling relieved that it was only a class problem, assumed that her problem was probably due to insufficient attention to compression. She advised her to focus more on that part when creating the golem, and she tried again and was able to create a golem that did not break. During the demonstration for Alicia, the students constantly asked him questions, although calling him sensei was a bit awkward. Kelva called them, said they were moving on to the main part of the lesson, would be making golems as training mannequins, and asked him to demonstrate once more. Rat effectively used his time to create a humanoid golem, relying on experience with Lathe and Sylvia. It was necessary to make it without the possibility of transformation. Inserting the magic stone, he easily created a detailed humanoid figure. The apprentice continued to be amazed at his goal in acquiring skills. Helva ordered Alicia to test this goal by attacking it with magic. Alicia directed her wind magic at the glove, but it remained undamaged. The students were surprised that the gates had no damage. Alicia, the strongest among them in magic, was stunned because her attack had no effect. For the first time, her magic did not affect a simple earth golem. Apparently irritated, Alicia looked at Rat and asked what was unusual about the golem. Confused, Rat explained that he had only made an ordinary gong. Alicia began to scold him publicly. As she did this, the students became anxious, fearing that they would now be required to make similar gongs. Helga overheard and calmed them, explaining that she did not expect such difficult work from them. A week later, Wrath was surprised to see the students aggressively striking their gongs with magic. The training ground resembled a battlefield. He stepped aside to avoid the chaos but noticed. Horns were easily broken. Although it was made of earth, he assumed that metals or mithril were used for the test. Wrath wondered if there would be enough mithril for all the students. Suddenly Will appeared, scaring Rat, Hooray. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, 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 he behaved calmly. He behaved calmly, he behaved calmly, he behaved calmly, he behaved calmly. He asked why Will was there, and Will reminded him that he was the head of the school council. Will said he is checking his new employee and inquired about the progress regarding the bids. Rate admitted that it was hard for him, and Will expected that he should be okay. Wrath nervously laughed and said that he had encountered certain difficulties but worked persistently. Will was glad to hear that. He glanced at Rate's face for a moment and said nothing. When Alicia called Rat, he apologized. Approaching Alicia, she noticed that he was embarrassed to talk to Will. Rat did not notice his own behavior, but Alicia said that although he seemed calm, she noticed that he was uncomfortable. This threw Rat off balance. Alicia has to explain that her experience in 4 great noble families gave her this understanding and skill, which she acquired accidentally. Wraith was surprised because Seth did not notice this, and he wondered if Will also noticed his discomfort. Alicia believed that Will probably did. Wraith decided not to hide his feelings if Will already knew. Alicia confirmed that Will and Wraith are acquainted. Wraith. It turned out that it was an unwanted accidental acquaintance, but Alicia doubted that Will met this person by chance. Ruth thanked Alicia, recalling her previous request to show a demonstration. That moment helped and earned the students' respect. Alicia said it was necessary and appreciated his efforts. She hoped everything would go smoothly if no problems arose. Rhett shared hope that the next day would pass without incidents. Wraith stood in front of the head's office, gathering courage to enter. Will was waiting for him, feeling Wraith's curiosity about the summons. He told Wraith to relax, explaining that he only needed a favor. Will asked for assistance in caring for school property. Wraith asked for explanations. Will explained that it was simple. The training grounds were damaged due to recent alchemy lessons. He was right. After yesterday's class, the grounds were in bad condition, but Rat, hired as an assistant alchemy instructor, believed that this extra work was not part of his duties. Just as he was about to refuse, Will said he would be paid, so he agreed to take on the task. Will noticed how quickly he worked and said that all his efforts were aimed at creating good conditions for student learning. He was ready to do anything to earn extra money and agreed to any payment he could get. Therefore, he diligently cared for the school premises every day. Lately, students have been bombarding him with questions and requests because the final test was scheduled for the next practical lesson. The student kept asking questions. Faith decided today to hold a test preparation session after class to help them. He posted an announcement, but since he did it at the last minute, he did not expect a large turnout. To his surprise, the class was filled with students. He was impressed, and since he only helped with Helga's lessons, he did not conduct his own lessons, and this annoyed him. He asked everyone to take a box and said he would explain later what to do. When everyone received their boxes, he asked him to mold a ball from that soil. The students would not be able to do it. 200 if that's all, because it seems simple. Someone thought he might check their work individually, but he clarified that this was the assignment for today. They were confident and thought they finished quickly. But when they tried, nothing worked. The dirt did not come off. Rafe said they probably already understood that this was not ordinary soil. It came from the southern continent, where magical energy was drained. Some soils in the world attract magical energy, while others repel it. This was the soil chosen by Rat. He told them they could leave if they wanted, and that he would answer their questions if they raised their hands. Many questions arose. Alicia said that the dirt would not move at all and was not sure if it was possible. Seeing that they were doubtful, he decided to show it and asked them to come closer. He quickly molded the dirt into a ball, and Alicia wondered if it was some kind of trick. Explained that they could put more magic into it or be very precise. Since the soil repels magic to some extent, it will not move as it should until they put more magical energy into it, as he said. He advised them to focus on each particle of dirt if it resisted their magic, and they could not control it in the usual way, because one must be very precise to overcome it. This exercise was meant to strengthen their power. It is about technique, and only those who have mastered the basics of alkenes will succeed. Alicia is focused and fair. Finally, she managed to move the earth a little, but holding it was difficult, and she doubted they would manage to do everything in a day. At least she believed it was impossible to shape it. He doubted whether he had set the bar too high. And Alicia agreed. Rate decided to simplify the task and told them to focus only on moving the earth. The special session ended, and everyone worked hard. It was late, but he still had to take care of the school premises. He suddenly noticed a beggar at the turnaround spot. He thought that it might be from another lesson and that there could be more marks. He decided to follow them in the next scene. Wright returned after a hard day's work. He was greeted by Laffy, Liu, Rhymes, and Sue. Dinner was ready, and they were waiting for him. He thanked them and began to eat, laughed, and asked about school, and he said that everything was fine, mentioned the upcoming test, and that he was delayed to answer students' questions. Laffy jokingly called him a wonderful teacher. He blushed and couldn't respond. Luria teased him further, calling him sensitive, and they started arguing loudly. Sylvia noticed that the strange feeling from the magical flow had disappeared. Luria stopped and said that it suddenly vanished. Rafe asked if they had found out the reason, but they had not. Smick changed the subject and asked about the test he had mentioned earlier. He explained that it was a test of purpose and construction, although he was not directly involved. As a temporary teacher, Rat would not grade the test but would help students prepare for it. Luria jokingly teased him for his dedication. Faith brushed off her remarks and said that he also started taking care of the school premises while working. Well, Lafayette was happy for him and was confident that he would do well. The day of the exam arrived. Ruth noticed that it was a perfect day for it. The students gathered on the training ground and were noticeably nervous. Helga, having made sure everyone was in place, began the exam, which focused on quickly forming a clear goal. Points were deducted for delays, and the fastest students completed their goals in 5 minutes. Next was the endurance test, where light magic tested the resilience of the brave. When it was Alice's turn, Wreath watched her closely. She created an impressive golem and tested its strength. The golem Alicia was built in 3 minutes, and it worked flawlessly. To meet Helga's high standards. After that, Alicia approached Wrath and asked how she had done. Embarrassed, Wrath asked her to repeat the question. She wanted to know the results of her test, and he told her that she seemed better than everyone else. For Vailsha, praise from Wrath seemed pale. He insisted that he meant it as a compliment. Suddenly, Alicia felt a strange flow of magic, similar to what Sylvia and Luria had felt. She said that this had not happened yesterday. Wrath could not precisely determine the cause and suggested that it might be a magical anomaly. He assured Alicia that it was probably nothing serious, but doubted it was a coincidence, as it was mentioned very often. After classes, when repairing the training ground, Ray again noticed paw prints, decided to figure it out, followed them until they suddenly ended, without revealing anything about the flow of magic or mysterious imprints. The next day, Helder got angry when he found out that the students' gallons were destroyed. The students put their soul into their work, and this made her even angrier. Rhett suggested immediately reporting it to Will. In Will's office, they learned that there were no witnesses. The night guard noticed nothing suspicious, and no other reports came in, so Will insisted they inspect the broken gongs for clues. Examining them, they assumed magical destruction, as they did not believe human hands could cause such damage. He noticed that there was no magical energy left in the gems at all. Magical gems should not be exhausted by themselves like that. The culprit probably deliberately used up their power. Currently, Will has strengthened security, and due to the start of classes, they postponed further investigation. Later, Rafe talked about the incident with Luria. Fate admitted that he knew little magic and wondered if something really required so much magical energy. Luria replied that directly taking energy from magic stones is rare, and if there is nowhere to store it, it must be used immediately. She asked if there were any signs of that, but he said there were none. Luria also knew nothing about it. Grit considered the situation alarming because even Luria, the magic expert, did not know about it, and since it involved golems, he decided to examine the golems he had created earlier, hoping to find a clue. However, when he got to the storeroom to look at it, he was stunned by what he had done. He found inside. In the next scene, Rietzum and Lucia and Luria stood up and said, emphasized that it was critical and insistently asked them to pay close attention. He had been holding himself together until then, but he began to panic. In this, he reported that his MC1 liquid had disappeared. Lucia was embarrassed, so Luria explained that it was created by the missing ghost. Lucia then asked why it disappeared and whether it moved on its own. This was exactly what Rate wanted to find out. The golem did not even contain magic, this made everything strange, and he recalled that people said they felt a strange disturbance in the flow of magic. He asked Luria when the magical flow stabilized here, and she replied that it was yesterday. Then he clarified when this irregularity began. Luria seemed to understand what he was hinting at. Rat explained that the interruptions in the magical flow started immediately after he created the MC1 liquid, and a similar problem at the Magic Academy began just yesterday. The source of this magical disturbance was probably his liquid Makun, which somehow got into the Magic Academy. Regarding the destruction of the golem at the Magic Academy, the culprit absorbed all the magical energy from the crystals of the broken golems, if it was an insatiable, inefficient golem behind this. Seeking magical energy to sustain itself, this would mean it was responsible. He decided to summon Lathe and others to help. He explained the situation to the girls and asked them to help stop the uncontrollable golem. Sylvia considered it a disaster, and Laddie noted that dealing with the thug created by Rate would be a big hassle. Lucius just wanted to stay home and rest. Wrath trusted everyone and sincerely regretted what had happened. Leify really did not consider him guilty, because no one had ever heard O'Gallan move independently. Rat hoped that even if someone went after that gallant, they would not come after him. No one reported this, but at the last moment, we will get to know you. Thank you very much for joining us today. He laughed and replied that her unique abilities would make it obvious. Then he pondered. Regardless of whether they used it, it might prove useful. Latvia announced that it was setting off. Rate grabbed the book and joined the group to achieve the goal he had set for himself. When they reached the academy, they found that the increased security hindered them. Rafe came up with a plan to sneak past the guards. Then he proposed an idea and asked Floria for a favor in 10 minutes. Everyone put on the academy uniform. Wrath explained that it was only to pass through the main gate. Now that they looked like ordinary students, he thought they had no problems. The guard asked why they were here, and Rat explained that he forgot an item, and the guard did not believe that the whole group returned because of one student's item. He thought they might need school supplies and suggested using magical disguises to get through. Relying on the uniform, although he was not sure, Rate noticed the guard's reaction and that they successfully passed without problems. Once inside, the classes noted the boldness of his plan. Ray admitted that he was impressed that she managed it, especially considering she was under 30. Lathe asked about their next steps. Rate said they would go to where the broken gallons are stored, hoping to find traces. The guard was still standing near the storage room. Laughter wondered if the school had already found the culprit, and Luria suggested leaving before they were caught. Rate insisted on investigating further and asked Luria to use her magic to find the Holmes. Sylvie tried to detect magic since they arrived at the school, but she noticed nothing until suddenly she was overwhelmed by a strange magical sensation. They decided to check and went to the backyard, but no gallons were visible. This confused Sylvia because she was sure the magical energy was coming from that place. Luria confirmed that the presence was still nearby. Raph was worried that the target had slipped away. But Sylvia and Luria were confident it was still close. Strangely, Golan's magical energy kept changing. If it moved so much, they or the guards would have already noticed it. Then Wright realized that the guard they were looking for was the golem itself. Wraith grabbed the guard by the shoulder and warned him not to acquire new abilities unnoticed. The man turned around, his body suddenly melted away. They watched in shock as he revealed his true nature and became a liquid creature named Liquid Meikwangalam. Lafay and the others were puzzled, and even Wrath doubted. He suggested that Goa might absorb magic or have some other unknown property, somehow acquiring new abilities like. While they argued about how it could have happened, the golden liquid MC1 surged. Lafayette Chase and Swansea, and his throat but the nest. Rate insisted that Luria and Sylvia use their magic because Golan seemed a tough opponent. But their spells did not work. Rate then asked Luria to magically seal Gaul and the surroundings to trap him, while the others kept saying, "Thank you very much." Luria is working to capture it. Lathe helped so that the golem could not escape. Rat ordered Laffy to attack again with his sword. He said it didn't matter as long as she hit. He wanted to check something. Galm dodged her blade again. Rate realized that they could not inflict physical blows, and it also neutralized magical attacks, so when the magic of Luria and others did not work, he had no choice but to rely on Laffy, and he found it strange that such a nimble golem pretended to be a human. If his theory was correct, Late would soon hit. His premonition came true. Laffy struck the harm. Ray said that golems need magical energy to move, and that liquid micron was almost depleted. This explained why it hunted magical stones and golems made by students. There were no gems nearby to restore its energy, so Golan's slowed movements indicated his weakness. Laffy's strikes were now hitting. Rat was confident they could win, because as a golem it could not function without magical energy, so exhausting this energy in battle would lead to its defeat. But then the golem transformed into an armored soldier and spoke to them. Rat was stunned by the knight's abilities. Laffy suggested trying to talk to him to stop the fight, but the knight said it made no sense. Ray realized that Late might tire before the golem's men and Randry. He called Laffy back some in. Luria ordered Luria and Sylvia to keep Gon busy with physical spells. Luffy returned and asked if Rate had a plan. He was not sure it would work, but he shared the strategy. They agreed to try. The Latvian joined Sylvia and Luria. Involved the Cavalier to distract him while Luria was away. Watch for moments when you can attack with ice magic balls. As expected, the golem canceled the magic. At that moment, Rat hid something in the ball, using his ability to transform. Appears to strike, with the glow of a magic stone. Caused an explosion that knocked them all off their feet. The golem, now even bigger, towered over them. Luria realized that the strange flow of mana was caused by the golem from absorbing magical energy from the surroundings. When Rat asked about it, she explained that it could replenish its own magical energy. Rate became worried because it was his only strategy. But Luria doubted whether it would be possible to absorb enough mana to sustain all operations. Home aimed at the student gallons to gather more mana, so they had to either wait until his mana was depleted or hit his magical crystal. Rafe was trembling, though he was not in battle, and Laffy charged at the Galm again. The fight was fierce, but the larger size of the Gollans made him slower. Laugh. Trying to distract the Galm, he asked for a plan but was refused. They noticed that destroying his magical stone would require help. Because of the larger size, it was easier to hit him, but his durability was a problem. Luria ordered everyone to step back so she could prepare for a powerful spell. Rate was worried that he would damage the school, but Luri waved it off and said that it could be repaired later. Despite his objections, she placed him in a magical sphere and ordered him not to move. When she stopped restraining herself to avoid trouble, after Luria committed a major act. During the attack, Leith and Rate hoped that the gong was destroyed. They thought he would not survive such an explosion, but when the smoke cleared, the gong stood with one broken arm, which still radiated power. Wrath no longer had ideas, and Laffy doubted that her sword could now harm him. Rafe concluded that their only option was to touch the magical golem gem to disable him. Although it required teamwork, he hesitated to expose everyone to even greater danger. But the girls were already dedicated to the cause and showed determination. Rafe gathered courage and ordered them to immobilize the target so he could approach. Lucia, Sylvia, Lathe, and Luria attacked in turn, giving Rate the opportunity to reach the magic stone and start turning it off. The gong resisted, drawing mana from it. Complicates the task, enraged like the creator golems. The ghost put in more effort and finally succeeded. This caused a collapse, and he, exhausted from the mana leak, could barely stand. And they will release. Their problems worsened when the guards of Villa arrived. Ray found himself in Helga's room, who was apologizing. Rate tried to interrupt and calm Helga, but Helga insisted. The investigation showed that the madness of the Gallons was caused by a defective magic stone that Helga gave to Rat. If Helga had not known about the defect, it could have been written off as an accident. However, Helga deliberately gave the faulty stone, hoping that Rate would not be able to create a golem and would despair, but contrary to expectations, his outstanding alchemical skills allowed him to create a golem from this stone, causing chaos due to Helga's envy and Rate's unique talent. Helvet admitted that it would be unfair to expect the payers to cover the school's losses and promised to take it upon himself. Rafe later visited Will's office, where Will noticed Helga's sincere remorse and called him a good person. Will assured Rat that he would not consider him guilty of that incident and praised his outstanding alchemical abilities. When Will was asked whether Ruth wanted to continue teaching, Rat thought about his friends outside of work, politely declined the offer. Will was not surprised, but made sure to tell him that the door was always open for him. After exchanging glances, Rafe began cleaning up the mess they had made. When she asked how everything turned out, he explained that there was a problem with Galen's magic stone and no one considered him guilty of this incident, and also said that he had stopped teaching. Luria, surprised, asked if he considered himself fit for teaching, and noted that due to the lack of friends, it might be difficult for him to support students with their problems. Wright waved it off, said he had Laffy and others, and Luria sincerely rejoiced that he had found good people in the capital. When Rhett asked what she meant by her remark, Lurie said that it was time for her to go. At first he was confused and asked where she was heading, and she clarified that she was going outside the capital. Wrath was irritated by her sudden announcements, but he knew that it was just her nature. She teasingly provoked him by asking if he missed her, after which she became serious and explained that she had seen her student grow up and felt ready to travel again. Rit suggested organizing a farewell party. This pleased her and she teased him again. 2 weeks after the Golen chaos, they organized a farewell party for Mimi. Wrath prepared delicious food and created a festive atmosphere. Lurie was given a glass of champagne, and everyone raised their glasses to the end of Rates' teaching career and the beginning of a new adventure for Lurie, enjoying laughter, food, drinks, and fun.